And hello, everybody! Welcome to the final day of the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam. And today I'm here with you, Maria Emelianova and Alex Ostrovsky. Unfortunately, Christian couldn't make it today. He actually was fighting a bit with his scratchy throat, but he was holding on until the last moment. But Alex, so happy to see you. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody! So, today
Thank you
Hikaru is
very much for
playing.
the introduction, Maria. Yeah.
Yeah, Hikaru is playing with white against Nodirbek. So yesterday was a win, so he only needs a draw. Perfect situation. Hi all. Hi, happy
Yeah.
Valentine.
So, oh, sorry, maybe if I'm a little laggy, coming in for Christian late. I'm still getting the hang of things. So sorry if I'm still having a little mild technical difficulties. But I was also going to say, yeah, happy Valentine's to everyone. Maria, I believe this is our first time on commentary duty together, so I'm very excited about that as well. It's also my first time doing 960 commentary, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna hopefully have lots of help from you, making sure I
Yeah,
understand all the rules of castling and everything in between. So I'm very excited to get on with today's game, hopefully final game for Hikaru.
yeah. We hope that there won't be any tiebreak, although of course we always welcome extra action. I'm sure we will have other tiebreaks and we will get to them as well. But yeah, Hikaru is in a perfect position here. They are starting, but yeah, as you mentioned, it's your first 960, but I'm sure it's also first 960 events for a lot of our viewers. So feel free to ask questions. But basically, what happens is before each game, they draw a number. There is like a huge, very noisy device that they built specifically for the Weissen house. And there's a lot of wooden balls. They just fall really loudly. And then someone comes on stage, pulls one, and then they draw this game position. And then the players analyze it for about 10 minutes before the classical game. And sometimes they do it together. And it was really fun to watch the three gods doing it together, Hikaru, Fabi, and Magnus. I believe it was the first time because they usually play against each other. So they cannot really analyze together. But yesterday we saw this, it was a real treat. We have the first move on the board. Um,
Yeah, and I wonder how much this analysis really helps them in advance. Obviously, in chess 960, we have a completely new position at the start of the game. Also, already have a question for you, Mario. Has there been any positions repeating? I'm assuming not. I know they're randomized every round, and we have 960 of them. So I'm assuming there's been no repeats, but still, I'm curious to ask you.
so I don't know if there was any repeat from last year. I believe not, but in the event, it's
Mhm.
definitely not possible because it's a physical
Oh, okay.
machine. So they
Mhm.
physically remove the ball that was already drawn. They also don't have the position. It's number, I don't remember which one, but the classical chess position is also removed from the draws. So we technically have 959 positions in the game. Yeah. So yeah, I think
That's why we call it freestyle chess, right? Because we
freestyle
don't even
chess,
have
they are forced.
960 positions. Yeah, they're
But there
forced to
is
freestyle that.
one way how you can avoid freestyling at least for one or two moves. So the players actually can see the other games. And sometimes it's really fun to watch the players waiting for the other position, for the other board, for the other final to make the move. And yesterday, Hikaru did it for a while. Magnus also did it. I don't know who was waiting for whom, whether Magnus was waiting for Hikaru or Hikaru for Magnus. They did analyze the same position together. And I believe Hikaru ended up playing a few moves from what they analyzed. But Magnus went a completely different move on move one. So that was really strange. But yeah, Hikaru and Magnus both ended up winning, but Magnus I think went through a lot of scare. For Hikaru, it was a bit more smooth sailing.
I
Yeah.
did see this clip where I think Magnus was spending something like 5 minutes at the start of move one,
Hmm.
checking out the other boards, checking out, getting inspiration. And speaking of, we see, of course, we have our first move. Maybe we can try to think how the players are thinking here, because from the very first move, you have to start considering and inventing your theory. We see obviously Hikaru relatively quickly plays the move pawn d4. I guess that's a
Hmm.
move you can also play in the classical chess, pawn to the
Hmm.
center. And
Hmm.
Nodirbek immediately is thinking, do I play d5? Maybe getting my own stake in the center. I'm wondering if he's thinking to play something like the Dutch defense. It's funny to call it that, but f5. So he can
Yeah.
open up his bishop. He does need to win, right? We do have to keep in mind that he needs to win to equalize the score. So perhaps, even though 9-6, excuse me, freestyle chess is very unbalanced at the beginning, maybe he's looking to create even more imbalance on the first move.
Yeah, true. For Nodirbek, I would completely expect the move something like e5, and usually you would think rook in the center immediately is a bad idea, but the funny thing is, uh, you cannot really attack it easily, except for a queen move, which can create some imbalances, as you said. Like he really needs to muddy the waters. In this position, yeah, d4 makes a lot of sense. C4 usually would be even better because it not only gives some air to the queen and prepares the bishop for development, but here the king is right next to the queen, so you really need to be careful about developing both. Like, and then you also need to think, how do you castle? Because if you do push
The other,
c4,
mhm.
yeah, if you do push c4, then long castle might be a little tricky. But the short castle, which in this position, it's funny, becomes a long castle, but castle to the right will be very difficult because you need to remove almost all the pieces from the way.
Yeah, this is actually something that I also was thinking of that you mentioned at the very start of the game. You already need to start planning about what are you going to do with your king? How are you going to get castled? Where are you going to get castled? Because, I was thinking like, hey, maybe you can play a move like f5. Like, for example, if I'm considering this move on move one, that could
Hmm.
really affect my chances of castling on the king side, which you also mentioned is actually long castles in this position, which is a funny feature of freestyle chess. So there's a lot to think about and move on. Saying that, I still, I was kind of thinking what I want to do for black. And I'm sure, of course, the players are not just thinking move one, they're thinking many moves ahead. It still feels quite nice to play this move pawn to d5, just to take control of the center.
Yeah.
And I have a funny idea. I was thinking maybe I can, I don't know if I can call this Fianchetto, but develop my bishop kind of on the complete edge of
Hmm.
the board, which would
Hmm.
coincidentally also create this attack on the king. And eventually maybe I can even create an attack. But of course, white can also do the same thing. So very, very already lots of decisions to be made very early on.
Yeah, you actually immediately got all of the major points. First of all, black does often push the same pawn as the white. It's it's still symmetrical position, although completely crazy and unnatural, but it's symmetrical, so pushing the same pawn would make sense. And also, you can go for quick attacks immediately out of the move one, hitting the pawns that are not defended, for example, g2 and g7 in this position. But you always need to be prepared that your opponent can do the same. But yeah, Nodirbek goes for f6, move we did not expect at all, but maybe he's preparing e5.
Yeah,
And
he's
he
opening his
pushed.
bishop, right? We were
Mhm.
talking about this guy in G8. He might have V5 up his sleeve, and yeah, did not expect it. It's kind of, this reminds me of a Karakan. I just can't help but try to make comparisons to classical chess in order to help my brain understand it a little more. Of course, in the classical chess, E4, C6, that's what we would expect to be the Karakan
Yeah, but
opening
here
with D4,
c6.
F6.
Yeah.
It's not the same at all, but still, that's mhm. It's kind of
Yeah,
like a completely reverse mirror. But go ahead, sorry.
yeah, sorry. We still have a little bit of
Hmm.
desync there in Zoom, but we will get there. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, c6 here seems a little bit maybe too much of burning bridges, right? Coming like thinking about the potential castle, but also, I mean, it was out f6. Maybe he was even worried about more pawn pushes, like e4, d5. Black, I guess, needs to be ready for pawn advances. You cannot easily stop pawns with the knights because they are kind of awkwardly placed on f8 and h8. But also when you push f6, you do block your other bishop. Yeah, this position is very unclear out like from the start. I don't believe we had anything like this
If
in
I'm
the
Hikaru
previous.
here, I'm saying
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking I can push e4, f4 maybe, bring my knights out, my dream is
Hmm.
I defend the center completely with all the pawns, and I'll
Hmm.
probably move my queen out and castle long and dominate. So if I'm white, my first instinct is to play e4 and bring all the pawns and pieces out as much as I can, and I guess black will have to try to fight
Hmm.
back with e5. It looks like Nodirbek is kind of all in on that pawn push to try to counterattack. But yeah, I don't see anything wrong with e4 for Hikaru. So, d4, e4, take the center. Some principles still apply and cross over from classical to freestyle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hikaru has a chance to really take the dominance in the center right now. Set up himself for maybe a very comfortable battle. You think castling to the left side will be safe enough with opponent c3?
I can see it if I can put my bishop on c2.
Hmm.
Feels like it could be very safe.
Hmm.
I need to move this queen, and also it feels like castling to the left is going to be much, as you mentioned earlier, it's so much harder to castle short, or to the
Short,
k
yeah,
side, since I
sure.
have all these
Very
pieces.
short.
Very short castle all the way on the other side of the board. So it feels like this is going
Hmm.
to be much simpler to achieve by moving out the queen and bishop. And I think to help us at the start of the game while the players are still taking a lot of time, maybe we can try to sync up our Zoom and go on a very short break so we can fix it. And then hopefully we'll be back with complete full syncing between all our commentary.
Yeah, we'll let them think a bit longer and we will be back in a couple of
Mhm.
minutes. And we are back. I hope I think we fixed everything. So we're ready to freestyle with you guys. Hi again, Alex. Hi again, chat.
Hi again, Maria.
Hikaru did do a lot of moves. It indeed does look like Karokan, right?
Yeah, it's beginning to look it's actually starting to make sense, I think, a lot for Nodirbek's plan. Because at first we are thinking he played f6 move one. That was not the move we expected, but let's check this out. After e4, let's catch up on our moves. E5, which is what we expected. D5, Hikaru is grabbing space. Now we get C6. So this is starting to make a lot of sense. First, he challenges the center with the E pawn. Now he's challenging the center with the C pawn. The bishop on G8 is trying to undermine this pawn on D5. The bishop on D8 has this open diagonal in C7 or B6 or A5 maybe. So it's starting
Mm-hmm.
to kind of look quite dynamic very early on,
Yeah.
which is exactly what Nordebek needs here, as he needs a win to stay in the match.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in a must win. This is the only way to challenge Hikaru, make him think, make him maybe go different plans. But yeah, for Nodirbek, it does all look pretty much simple now. He is attacking these pawns. Since you advanced them so early on, I will start hitting them. What does Hikaru want to do now? I guess playing c4 is very committal, but might make sense because it does block the... Oh, yeah, he did it. He did it. So far, we are actually predicting most of the things.
Yeah, I see this question mark, but that seems very overly harsh. He's protecting his pawn in the center.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one downside that I can see to this move is that now we see Hikaru has placed three of his central pawns on the light squares, so the dark squares could be a bit vulnerable. Like for example, that square on D4, right? That could be a beautiful piece, a square, excuse me, for one of Black's pieces. For example, the knight, but the knight is
Mm-hmm.
so far away from that square,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to even imagine it getting there. So there's some long-term, maybe concerns with those dark squares, but I think Hikaru's plan, he sees he's going to play f3 on one of the next moves, and his bishop on g1 is going to open up, and he's not too worried about those dark squares because he's grabbing a lot of space in the center. So, and the bishop on g8 for black is starting to look pretty restricted.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You are I feel like you're a natural in freestyle. I didn't think about this. So we, as chess players, coming
Mhm.
from normal era of chess, we are used to treat every position like we grew up with them. So we think about, yeah, this is a weak square. I don't know, this is a weak square, right? Like the d4 is weak, so black can put a knight there. But then, like, wait a minute, there is no knight on the left, right? So how do you get there? Getting from the right is almost impossible. So when you come to these natural conclusions, but then you apply them to freestyle chess, you're like, so we need to treat the board differently. We need to treat all of the all of the weaknesses differently, almost like there is no weakness if there is no piece that can get to that weakness. And this is the versatility which players need to find to really excel in this format, to
That's a
apply.
great piece of advice, by the
Yeah.
way. You know, something's only a weakness if it could be taken advantage of, right? So you sometimes, like you said, the squares or maybe your king's a little open, but if the opponent's pieces aren't there to take advantage, you can get away with these things.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, for example, rook on a2. How often do you see that in classical chess?
Yeah, rookie two on move five. You don't see that very often, but you know there was not that many choices because rookie three was the other option, and maybe Hikaru didn't want that rook to be hit by a bishop b6. So he thought, okay, I'll put on e2. It's a little weird for now, but you know it's okay. We're gonna find a way to bring more pieces out, and eventually that rook is going to look a little bit more normal.
Yeah, I mean, he probably can swing it, especially if he decides to castle to to the right. Then the whole attack on the king, because for black, castling to short side to the right is nearly impossible now. These pieces are never getting out quick enough for that. In fact, I don't even see that they are running out of squares, right? Like if you develop this knight, then you block developing square for this knight. If you put this knight on f7, where does the bishop go? The bishop only has f7, so these three pieces are basically fighting for just two squares.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, this
yeah,
knight in h8 is I mean it makes sense for that knight to go to g6 because then you can try to jump to f4. But for example, like if Hikaru plays a move, he doesn't have to do it, but if he plays a move like g3, now the knight on g6 is restricted. And the knight on f8 has almost no legal squares. It only has one legal square in the first place, and as you mentioned, the bishop in g8 is also very stuck. So we can already see this strategy of Hikaru to play e4, d4, d5. He's grabbing a lot of space in the
yeah.
center and it's making it difficult for black's pieces to get out. We do get knight h to g6, which again makes a lot of sense because that knight is in the corner. You do not want it there. And I don't know how much we want to play g3, but it seems reasonable something like g3, later f3, and the bishop on g1 will get into the game. Hikaru can probably play something like knight f2, knight d3 later on to improve his own knight from the corner. And
Mm-hmm.
that knight on f1 can go to perhaps e3, as you're pointing out, and maybe f5 in the future. So it seems like a little
Yeah,
easier for his pieces to find squares, which is not
exactly.
unusual when you have more space.
I also have a concrete question. If I play g3, h4, h5, where does this knight go?
Yeah, that looks like an excellent the long-term idea as well, gaining even more space and just pushing black's pieces back. So I would not be surprised if we see some plan like that in the middle game.
Because, like, in fact, knight on e7, hit by d6, is trapped in the center of the board, and it just has no moves. You can only save it by preparing bishop f7 to go with the knight to g8. Nothing
Yeah,
else.
it could get pretty cramped for those pieces, but I feel like black is not going to let that happen all that easily. I'm sure he'll like, for example, one idea in the future maybe is d6, knight d7, to try to get the pieces out that way. Although, of course, even then you haven't fully solved your issues of space. Yeah, I mean it's looking. You know, we were thinking about this move g3. That's kind of my most natural reaction because I'm seeing this knight f4 move, which is actually a fork, by the way, because the pawn on g2 is actually hanging. Usually, you don't have to worry about that pawn. in classical chess with the bishop and f1, but that's actually a real fork to potentially be concerned about.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. I guess ideal situation for Hikaru now would be to prepare defending it, or, well, yeah, I guess we are not too. We should be worried about knight h3. Yeah, in fact, if, for example, if white plays rook
Wow.
c2,
Yeah, like if you,
knight
this.
f4 still, we decide to kick it out,
Mhm.
knight h3, and the
You
bishop
lose
on
the bishop.
g1. Yeah, you cannot defend it, you cannot move it, you cannot move the other knight. There is no rook on e1 anymore. So this bishop is in danger then. You cannot play g3, but then you have to play something else and maybe
Yeah.
develop the bishop, and then you can play g3.
Actually, this looks very nice. This like not playing g3 first, but this rook c2 move, which also kind of creates the c file x-ray on the black queen. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as you pointed out, knight f4, now you go f3, you defend laterally in the second rank, and g3 isn't going anywhere. We can still play that on the following moves. This actually looks even maybe more logical than starting with g3. So that's why we could see Hikaru obviously already taking a pause, and maybe I don't have to play g3 right away. So this actually looks really nice for white.
Yeah, this looks very nice, exactly. Because for black, it's still very hard to find logical moves. The the natural comfort is gone. Like you cannot just think, oh yeah, we'll just put the knight on c3, knight on f3. I'll figure it out. It always works. You have the patterns. The patterns here are completely gone. Black thinks, oh, I'm fine. I have the knight on the outpost. I will just develop the knight to g6. I'll just put the bishop on f7. But then white can boom, 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 and you lose the knight. There are no squares. Or you develop this knight, you decided that you don't need to have it on f8, right? You move this knight away. White plays d6. You cannot even get to e6 anymore. Like all these dynamics are so new and so unnatural for us, and
But
they have.
speaking of this boom, 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 the dynamics, check this out. So black here actually does have an idea. He can play knight d3. So, okay, you're attacking the queen. So
Yeah,
only one square actually, which is kind of, you only have one square, queen
yeah.
e3. And now there's this move, bishop b6. So you
Mm-hmm.
give up the knight, and you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned another variation with the bishop and g1 being unprotected, queen d3, of course, and now bishop takes g1, and suddenly, okay, we don't lose any material, but black is happy to make this trade because that bishop and g1, had it been not traded off, would have been on a very strong diagonal. And this black bishop can be very powerful on this position since white has a lot of dark square weaknesses. So crazy dynamics are possible, even though black only has two pieces developed. They can actually cause quite a bit of trouble. I mean, not that black is winning or anything, but still pretty unusual motif with that bishop
It
on
is.
g1 being
It
really.
is indeed. I'm immediately starting to think to trap your bishop, but then I have to really calculate this line. Like, what if they do take?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, white does have
And then I
g3.
go back to g1.
You
Yeah.
do go back
Yeah.
to g1. All this needs to be calculated, but maybe we don't even want to do that. We're just happy to develop our pieces with tempos. Maybe the idea is to do this, and I don't know. And also, black always has to be careful about this potential advance. Because if we have d6, c5, there is no play for these pieces. They are all completely stuck. Okay, maybe not the knight. The knight actually will be immediately happy.
It's like a trade-off, right? You can, some
Yeah.
positions you could play d6 and gain a lot of space, but also with this bishop on g8 and the knight on f8, you have to be careful we don't overly activate them for the opponent, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. In fact, there is a saying that the middle game in freestyle chess starts from move one.
That's what it feels like,
It
right?
feels like
Mhm.
exactly.
So we see
Yes.
Hikaru taking his time here. Now the time control is 90 plus 30, and do the is there sudden
There is
death?
no
Okay.
there is no added time
Mhm.
after move 40. They also cannot agree on a draw until move 40. That has to be confirmed by the arbiter. Sophia rules, so called. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I'm not sure why. I don't think they would do it quickly. It's not like there is a Berlin draw or anything.
True, and we know here that it is a must-win game for
Yeah.
Nodirbek of Dusseldorf. So even without, with or without that rule, he was not going to be taking a draw regardless, right? He's going to either go out on his sword or go out in a blaze of glory, as they say.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how tables turn. Yesterday, Hikaru's game was all about the knights. He got two knights endgame against two bishops, well, with rook, and the way he converted that endgame is just beautiful. We could not help but repeating these knights all the time. And now look at those knights of Nodirbek.
Yeah,
Again, again, the theme is about the knights, but they are struggling instead.
definitely. If you, as I'm sure a lot of the fans do here, if you watch a lot of Hikaru, you're going to learn a lot of unique chess terminology, right? That you wouldn't get it anywhere else. And of course, D's Knights is a staple, right? If you watch Hikaru's on stream, you would be very familiar with D's Knights, amongst other legendary uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Phrases, I guess, for lack of a better
Juicers.
term. Yeah.
Juicers, yeah, takes
Juicers, of course, juicers. That's the fundamental, right? That's I didn't even mention that. That's so fundamental. Everyone knows juicers, right? Or level two is these knights, and then so forth. And by the way, you mentioned middle game starts in move one, and yeah, of course that's why in move five you already see Hikaru has spent 20 minutes because there's a lot of calculation involved from the very get-go. He already needs to evaluate the consequences of this knight f4 move. Can he allow it? Can he start with g3? Again, to me, I feel like, I mean, without delving deeply into position, g3 feels like the most natural idea, just because
Mhm.
I don't even have to worry about knight f4 anymore. And if I'm in time to play f3 next, then I'm feeling quite good about my development. Actually, funnily enough, I see here black can actually maybe consider bishop b6, which would stop my plan of ff3.
Uh-huh.
And you were mentioning this idea for white to push the pawns, so he's kind of saying, "Hey, come after me." You could play the move c5, right? So white could try that, but then once you play c5, now the d5 pawn is under attack. So it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. The bishop moves away, and then you can play d6, but then knight e6 is coming. So these pawns might actually be overstretched because black's pieces are suddenly jumping into the game. So this would be a really insane line because black has played bishop a5, bishop b6, bishop a5,
Mm-hmm.
and has a good position, which is
Yeah,
quite unusual.
somehow, like you would want to, oops, sorry, you would want to trap it somehow, but it always has d8 square.
Mhm. And now after
That's
knight
so
d4,
strange.
black also has like the b3 square, right? So the pawns never go backwards, which means that they create weak squares behind them. And yeah, I don't think this would happen, but this is actually a really great illustrative line where white's pushing the pawns up the board super aggressively, but it could
Yeah.
actually backfire because it's making a lot of weaknesses as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you do need to keep in mind that the king safety is still an issue, even in freestyle chess. You cannot freestyle with the king. And now the rook already moved, which means the castle to the right is out of question.
Mhm.
So you have to think, well, maybe advancing all of these pawns is a bit too much, and the knight on d4 is going to be a problem in the future.
I
Uh,
actually completely forgot about it. Now he no longer can castle because the rook has moved, which is wasn't on my radar at all. Although it does feel like if there is going to be a castle, perhaps the queen side here or on the left side of the board
yeah,
is a little more natural since you only need to remove the queen and bishop to do so.
yeah. But when you think about long castle, don't forget about the pawn on a2. Well, now
Hmm.
it's not a problem, but if we do move these pawns, and then later we decide to castle, this pawn will get unprotected, and the bishop on g8 is eyeing it out all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen a lot of clips or just snippets on Twitter where these pawns in the flank, you can blunder the pawn or even checkmate because it's a pawn that you normally would expect to be protected since you're so used to playing classical chess. But a lot of times these are surprisingly unprotected squares like G2 here, right? We were pointing out that's not a
Hmm.
pawn you're usually too worried about, but here it's a little bit of an issue. And
Yeah.
actually, by the way, I saw this earlier in the chat. Someone is saying, "Oh, Alex, have you ever played in the 960?" And I have. Like, oh, I mean, I've been playing chess for a long time, so I've definitely played it like somewhere randomly. I think I even remember there was a 960 tournament. I know there's a Freestyle Fridays, which maybe I'll play today if I could learn a thing or two from these great players. But I remember there was some random freestyle tournament on chess.com that I participated in once. That was like several years ago. But I am actually very interested. I do want to play. I keep forgetting is my problem. I keep forgetting about this. I'm used to Title Tuesday. I'm not used to Freestyle Friday. So I feel like I'm like, oh wait, it's already I'm in New York, so it starts at 11 in the morning and it's like noon, and I just remembered it. And by that point, it's too late. I've already missed all of the action. But maybe, we're up nice and early today. We're nice and early in the East Coast here in America. So maybe I'll go straight into the freestyle after
Yeah,
this
that's
freestyle.
true. That's true. If there is no tie break for Hikaru, well, I might still be here, but maybe if Christian comes back for the tie break, then you can play, and maybe we can even commentate on your games.
Oh wow, yeah. See, you'll nonstop action. I mean, maybe, even if there is tie breaks, maybe, I have a couple monitors here. I can sneak into
Oh,
the
you can
tournament.
do
I
it at
don't
the
know.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
multitask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, especially, if they have like a break between the games, that's going to give me plenty of opportunities to play a couple games myself. But we're still far, far away from that. So, as the time draws near, we can make these decisions. But yeah, Hikaru's thinking. I think let's try to like okay. So what could he be considering? Let's put G3 maybe on the board because
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Like that's for a lowly player like me. This is like the obvious move, and
Yep.
I'm trying to think of how like this. I see. Let's say D6 because I was mentioning earlier like D6, knight D7 maybe is a way for black to develop,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty happy with this F3 for white, opening
Yeah.
my bishop on G1. My dream, yeah, maybe knight D7. Now, my question is, do I have time to play knight f2? Because black does have this annoying like bishop b6. I feel like if I
Yeah.
can get my knight to the d3 square, nice and centralized, that would be a good idea. But if you don't let me do that, then it's surprisingly annoying to like
Well,
unpin. Knight
what if we
e3
do
though.
knight e3 with the idea to
Yeah, and
put
also knight f5 now, right? With a nice little fork being threatened. Yeah, that could be an
true,
idea. hmm
true.
Yeah, what do you
Okay.
think about this position? Do you like white or black here?
I mean, obviously white looks nicer,
Mhm.
but I feel like now that d6 is played, while there is still pressure on d5, I mean, black also has developed quite a strong bishop. This bishop is really nice. That's maybe the best piece currently in black's position.
Mhm.
If they do manage to, for example, put queen on c7, castle, and then start something along the line. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, do they even need to castle?
Yeah, maybe
What if
not. I
they,
see your,
what
yeah,
if they
just push the
just,
pawn down the board. Mhm.
yeah, that would be actually a quite a strong idea for black. That what are the other ideas? Now that you extended these pawns, maybe we can think about h5, h4.
But you can also meet it with h4 for white, right? If they go h5.
Mm-hmm.
So pawn might not get very
Exactly.
far. Yeah,
Exactly.
this is, I mean, at first glance, I definitely like, we do have hold on, where did we get from Hikaru here? I think we believe we have a move, and that
Uh,
was G3.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, G3, G3. He
Yeah.
did
So
spend 14 minutes, but I feel like this was one of those positions where you need to spend some time. It's important.
Mhm.
You're potentially deciding the future of the dynamics in your position, and um, as you said, the knight on g6 is quite a powerful piece if it lands on 4 creative. Yeah, actually, we might be heading to the
To
direction
that
of,
line. hmm
yeah,
hmm
to that direction. I suggest to quickly sneak to see other games while maybe Hikaru will take some
hmm
time to think here, especially that I'm hearing that we might have first confession of the day by the player who surprised us the most, and that's Vincent. Vincent yesterday crushed Fabiano. That game was just masterclass. I don't know. I don't know how. Is it Peter Leko who is now commentating there as well? Is it just maybe it's his year?
It's
But
his home field
he
advantage. Don't forget.
Yeah, yeah, he won against Alireza first in the classical match. Then he knocked out Magnus, also in the classical match. I wish, like, I'm sure, I'm sure Keimer wishes that there was a classical FIDE rating in this event. And now he is leading against Fabiano. Well, he is with black pieces, but
Mhm.
yeah, let's have a look at this because
But Maria, even if there's no rating on the line, there's plenty of prize money for the players. So I'm sure
yeah,
that's not a bad consolation prize for
yeah,
the FIDE points
that's
that he
true.
may have collected.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's $200,000 first prize.
Mhm.
That's pretty hefty amount. And even if you don't win, you still get 100 and was it 150? Um, Plus you're invited to the next event. We do have some information on the next event, Grand Slam. We will get to that soon
Mhm.
because there were questions whether it's 5 players, whether it's four, three. But yeah, we will tackle this soon. But this is completely different position.
Yeah,
So Vincent actually did go for the Dutch.
but you know what it is? It's different, but also it's a different match situation because Vincent, he's completely happy with the draw,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Nordebek needed to keep it. He wants to even more balance to get his victory. So we
Mm-hmm.
see Vincent, he's playing a little more classically. F5, D5. He's playing not only the Dutch, the Stonewall Dutch is what he's playing. If you look at the structure after D5 and F5,
Yeah.
but he can afford to be a lot more solid than Nordebek's game. Is what I want to say.
Yeah, 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 good point. You're making very great point. They have completely different match situations. It's Fabi who is in a must win, so he needs to create opportunities for himself. Therefore, well, I mean, Vincent is not holding back. By the way, is it a very common term, Stonewall? Double stone wall, because Magnus mentioned
Mhm.
it the other day in Confessional, and both me and Christian were like, classical double stone wall? What's that?
Classical
Uh,
double Stonewall, I don't know if that's very common term. I guess I didn't see the exact position he was referring to, but when we say at least when we refer to Stonewall, at least how I was brought up, it's like when you have those pawns in D5 and F5, this pawn structure, or white can have D4, F4, E3,
mhm.
like having all those pawns in the dark squares. That's what
Yeah.
kind of the Stonewall structure, which is a very popular opening that a lot of coaches like to teach to some younger kids because you just set those pawns up and then you go for the attack. So it's a very
Hmm.
straightforward plan. And some of these things that you learn when you start out chess can actually work all the way, up to the world championship level, as we hear, Magnus
Wow.
Carlsen is referring to it.
Yeah, I guess double one is when both players have the same structure with pawns facing each other. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, this is a very interesting position, and yeah, we will get confirmation whether we can hear Confessional soon. It will be interesting to hear Vincent. He actually uh, almost looked into the future yesterday. Like he mentioned that at the start he thought that the pawn on f7 was the most weak square. And we were like, yeah, but that pawn is not really getting attacked anytime soon. And it won the game. He did get to that pawn, but like he managed to kind of like squeeze his queen in to the back rank, and he was sitting there, and suddenly the pawn is gone and the whole position crumbles. So understanding here is um yeah, like you don't even know where to start, right? Like all the patterns are out of the window, and every position is blank, fresh. You've never seen it again. You likely never played it again before. So you have to like freestyle.
Yeah, but Vincent, when you could see not why he's the leader if he's able to recognize these patterns so early on, right? So when he's talking about these freestyle chess, concepts, we got to listen up because this guy obviously knows what he's talking about. And by the way, Maria, I saw while we were resetting, making sure all our technical stuff was nice and good. I actually saw that Hikaru and Fabiano were analyzing the position together at the start
Hmm.
of the round.
Hmm.
So I was thinking about that because they both played d4 and move one. but I guess their preparation might have gone out the window with the f6 and f5 from the opponents. It would be interesting to hear what they were mostly focused on and analyzing, but I thought that was interesting to take note of.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very often well, I don't know if Fabi does. We never heard his side, but Hikaru actually did admit in a post-game interview with us that he trusts Fabiano because he thinks Fabiano did way more extensive prep for this event. There is even a joke that he already knows like half of the positions. I don't know if that's merely true. It's I don't know if our brains are even physically capable of remembering of even two moves in each position. But Fabiano is definitely working on it. That's his priority now. And when Fabiano goes quickly for some line, Hikaru is likely to go for the same. Not without thinking at all, but he might just save time and go for the same setup. Meanwhile, we do have a confession by Keimer prepared, so let's dive into that, and then later we can go back to Hikaru's game.
Yeah, actually, I kind of get the feeling that I'm starting to repeat myself, but the starting position looked incredibly dangerous for black. At first, I thought it's kind of fine because there are no immediate targets, but this pawn on g7 is so hard to defend long term, and after d4, it really wasn't easy to find the first move. What we discussed was, I think what Nodirbek played with f6, e5, the way it has turned out for him, it's quite okay, but if Hikaru had played knight e3 instead of c4, I didn't really like the position at all. And what I did is also seems very dangerous. After f3, I played e5, de, and now I decided to go knight g6, the idea being that after f4, I will have knight h4, taking g2. Knight e3, there's d4. And if he includes, let's say, knight h5, queen d7, still he can't play g3 because knight g2 traps the rook. So that's kind of my idea. I'm not entirely sure whether this is so great, but I think it's kind of okay for now. But just in general, it's possible that what I did is not so great because it doesn't really feel good. I just don't see an immediate problem. Yeah, but I also didn't really know what else to do. So that's why I also spent so much time on move 1, because I felt that if we make the wrong choice here, we might get into a seriously bad position. There are so many weak squares and spots, and it's really difficult to find any kind of setup which doesn't allow huge explosion of these weaknesses. This knight e3, I think d4 also was a very good first move, of course, but it's kind of obvious in the sense that you'll just play d4, e4, bring the knight either g3, f5 or e3, f5, and you're always right in time. The symmetry first move d5 would have been countered by e4, I think, and then again, also didn't really like that. Maybe it was still the best option, but yeah, I'm not incredibly unhappy with the way my opening has went, but I also don't have a really good feeling.
Feeling like...
Yeah, very interesting, right? Yeah, very interesting. Like, well, of course, Vincent is playing with black pieces, so he sees the dangers, and he did discuss it with Nodirbek before the start, right? Like they both went into the game discussing with the opponents, Hikaru with Fabiano and Vincent with Nodirbek. And Vincent did even mention Hikaru's game. He mentioned one move that Hikaru could have done. What did you think?
Yeah, no, he said he thought the starting position, right? It's so funny. He said, I spent a lot of time on move 1
Yeah.
because I thought this position is very dangerous for black, right? Which is not something you normally hear, in the first move of the game. And he was saying from Hikaru's game, by the way, if we want to show that, because he was saying, hey, I've considered that approach. And if we just backtrack, the move he was referring to on move 4 was when Hikaru played c4. And Vincent was saying, yeah, I thought if Hikaru plays knight e3, so defending that pawn on d5 with the knight, he didn't think this was something that he liked for black, right? So that was interesting insight. But we saw he played a completely different move in his game with f5, and we mentioned they are in different match situations, although looking at his moves, F5, D5, E5, you wouldn't think this is someone who's just playing to make a draw. But I think it just shows you how, he's realizing that this position for black, he thinks it's dangerous. So you have to maybe take a little bit of drastic measures to make sure you get good counterplay or a good position, because the way that it's set up, he thinks like normal moves just won't cut it. So he's like, I'm not sure about this, but feels like this is what I should be going for.
Yeah, it does sound like he's overly pessimistic about his position, but when you actually listen to everything he says, it does make a lot of sense. He mentioned that he thought that quite logical natural move d5 might turn out really dangerous if white does indeed go e4. I don't know if it's true, but he dismissed it for that very reason, and that just shows that okay, in blitz you might play a move like d5 quickly just to skip thinking here, because it seems logical to just repeat the same. But you can very quickly end up in troubles because you cannot do the same for black.
Yeah, but this is so funny because what is even happening after pawn takes e4, rook takes e4, like some rook lift in the middle of the board, and I guess he was worried that this position, there's no knight f6, right?
There
So
is no knight f6. Like you're
Yeah.
like, where is my moves? Where is my moves? But actually, the engine does like it for black. But it's hard to tell if it's actually right. Because it's interesting. You would think that it's easy to set up the engine to look at any position from move one, and it doesn't matter where the pieces are. But you still need to kind of use echelon of like stockfish analysis. My understanding is in Fisher Random, they just had to go for one of the 960 positions as kind of like point of
Reference,
for
I guess.
comparing to
Yeah.
anything. So the engine actually doesn't have any idea because it doesn't understand where the pieces should be. So all of this mistake in accuracy, the first like 5-6 moves, they like just don't think about them at all, because the engine doesn't have any idea as well. Of course,
Yeah.
like blunders is still blunders. Like it will say that you are gonna
If you lose
lose
a piece, the engine will
you lose a
understand.
piece,
Yeah.
you lose a
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
That engine can calculate. But like the actual the not even the patterns, I don't even know how to explain this, but like it has
Yeah.
nothing to compare to. There's no learning curve.
Well, it just shows you the difficulty of the complexity of the game. If it's something, we're so used to, I'll just plug it into, Stockfish or whatever, and I'll get an answer. You could, now it's not even necessarily the case that you're going to get the right information. And of course, this is what Hikaru, Nodirbek, and everyone else is trying to figure out. And Maria, one thing that, aside from the complicated position, I'm looking at the time situation. We can see that Hikaru is really starting to fall behind on the clock. Of course, 55 minutes is plenty of time. We see Hikaru playing blitz and bullet, very, very efficiently and effectively. But still, what do you make of this early time expenditure by the both of the players?
Well, it's a very complicated position, obviously. Hikaru did play g3. Nodirbek played d6. Like Nodirbek is not going to sit around and wait for his knights to be buried on that back rank. So he has ideas. Yeah. And Hikaru also has problems. The knight on h1 currently has no moves. It cannot develop. The bishop on g1 also has no moves, and also like can be potentially kind of like not attacked, but that X-ray does prevent Hikaru from moving pawn on f2 with ease. So he also has to solve some problems. He has to anticipate these problems in development and uh, somehow untangle this. Like, so he did play 93, 97, rook c2. So that's all what we expected, actually.
Yeah, I
Now,
think we looked at very similar position when we were trying to predict some of the moves.
yeah, he could play f3 now. Now also knight c5 is quite a nice move. B4 is not possible. A3 before would just expose our king so much. Castling is also a question still.
Well, knight c5, a3, there was this funny knight b3 fork I gotta watch out for. But in general, if I could play a 3b4, even if I'm exposing the king, I wouldn't really mind it because I have, of course, we can't do it right away because of
Not
knight
right
b3.
now. Not right
But
now.
not right
Whoops.
now. But and by the way, that doesn't even, it's not even a fork. It actually wins the queen. I realized
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the
there is
queen is
no moves.
trapped.
There is no
Yeah,
moves for the queen.
yeah. So it's worse than a fork. But the thing is, even if my king's on b1, like you mentioned this idea for black, you're like, wait a minute, do I even want to get castled? And that's what I'm thinking for white. If I can actually launch my pawns down the board, and I could even
Mm.
maybe do like a rook lift, like rook a2, rook b2, or or even the c2 rook can go to b2. It doesn't seem like I need to castle at all, like in the future, if I can get those pawns rolling. But it's, as we can see, it's actually quite a challenge because of the b3 square, right? Like,
Yeah.
so this knight c5 move for black, I would be a little cautious, even if I see that, okay, I can put my knight on the nice square where it's not really capable of being attacked with b4, having to constantly worry about that move. I think Nordebek, I wouldn't be surprised if he especially because it seems like he's maybe making an effort to play quickly. I feel like that's not a decision you want to make if you want to make a quick move, because in that case you need to constantly be on the lookout for these tactical resources. But I was also wondering, like, maybe, of course, the position is complicated, so it's very natural that Hikaru is taking his time. But I also feel like maybe for Nordebek, psychologically, it's like, well, I'm behind the point, playing black. I got to get a win. I'm just going to play freely. I'm just going to kind of let the moves flow. And maybe he's not really feeling too much pressure. Maybe he's like, all right, let's see what happens. Like, let me just kind of play quick, play some moves, and hope for the best. So maybe that's kind of he's playing free. That's kind of the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like he is also kind of like not losing anything by trying, right? He already lost first game, so must win. Might as well do your best to put your opponent at least in time pressure, maybe something will come out of it. But I also have to mention, even without a3, there is a threat right now in this position.
Oh, for black, yes, we have to be very
Yeah.
careful. Yeah, black is threatening knight d3. Exactly.
Well, knight f2, I guess, stops that. But then what do you do next? Like this knight is kind of like
Yeah, maybe
forcing white
bishop e2
to,
and knight d3 to
yeah,
try to
yeah,
challenge that knight eventually.
that's one idea. But then this knight did two moves and forced us to make all of this effort to get rid of it.
Let's
Of
not
course,
forget our knight was on h1, so
yeah,
that's maybe
it's the
not a knight.
same.
Yeah,
It's
we're not too unhappy about trading it off. But I don't think what is the so Hikaru's thinking after Nordebek played knight d7, right? So the knight hasn't arrived in c5 yet,
no,
but it
not
could.
yet.
Yeah, it definitely could, right? It's getting close.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, Actually, now I'm thinking about what Vincent said, that maybe c4 was not. Do you remember that the engine actually did say that it's a mistake? Was it a mistake? Maybe because
It
it's
did flash
such
that, yeah. Mhm.
that is such a nice position for the knight to be at, attacking d6. But never mind. We'll get our play too. But I do like this for black quite a bit now that we see this problem. Yeah, maybe just bishop e2.
Mhm.
Problem is that black also gets some counterplay. They also have g6 f5.
Yeah, or even this h6 bishop h7. Now you're starting to create some potential pins on that diagonal. I think the struggle here is that white has a space advantage, but black has control over these dark squares. Also, the coordination for white is surprisingly tricky. Like, if you would think that, or I would think that, well, black is cramped. It's much harder for black to find good squares for their pieces. But
Yeah.
as you mentioned multiple times, the knight in h1, no legal moves. Bishop in g1, no legal moves. Hikaru's king side here really needs to kind of find a way to develop. So it's like it's a little bit deceiving. It feels like white's piece development should be more straightforward than black's, but it's almost the other way around. But the good news is, I feel like if Hikaru is able to get these, like we mentioned, this f3, knight f2, knight d3, the nice thing is if he's able to get these pieces out effectively, I think he's just going to be much better because he
Yeah.
does have that space advantage. So he
Mhm.
has a temporary issue. How do I solve my development? But he has a long-term advantage of having greater space. So if he solves the short-term disadvantage, he has the long-term advantage. So that's why he's investing, I think, also lots of time, because if he can solve that issue, he's going to have a really nice position.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is an investment, exactly. And Hikaru is quite good at trading investments. You sometimes invest more at the start to get more profits at the end, right? So his time investment now might deliver better fruits later, right? I like how the knights, for example, this knight only needs 2 moves to end up on d3. This knight only needed 1 move. Now compare it to black. H8, G6, E7. And this knight, yeah, but like these knights are here. Our knights will end up here. Which ones
More
are
active.
better?
Yeah, it looks
More
like we're a
active, way
little more
more
active.
active with knight f5, with, I don't know, pushing away the bishop already without even having to move a2 pawn. Few more moves in this, this can look really, really nice for Hikaru. He's still thinking, shall we have a look at the other 2 games we have not tackled yet, and then maybe we can have a very quick break.
Sure, let's kind of go around the games. I don't believe, yeah, we haven't checked this game between Magnus and Sidorov. They look like
They already
they've made
played
lots
half
of
a game
moves.
there.
Yeah.
Is this a rapid?
And we have a different first move here. We've had f6, f5, and now we have d6. And by the way,
D6, yeah.
Sidorov, just like his countrymate Nodirbek, he also is in a must-win game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Something went really, really wrong for him yesterday. This is kind of like a French, maybe?
Yeah,
Reverse
or a
French?
Philidor or something. Yeah, I don't
Or
know.
Philidor,
Yeah,
yeah.
but we have a dark square set up for him as well. And he goes f5. So this would be quite nice if you could play knight f6, but let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, there is no knight. You can put
Yeah.
the bishop there, but I don't know how much benefit is that move.
Wow. Okay, so he
Wow.
closes down so he's making it clear he's going to probably be playing like g5 and h5 and trying to attack on the king side. Okay, so he completely closes the position. So let's see, doesn't get the engine's approval.
Yeah,
Ma-
first 5 moves
Mhm.
only pawns. Same move as his countryman. Magnus goes for d4, cold, but develops.
Knight d3, I assume. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's gonna play like a3, b4, and he's gonna steamroll the queen side. So let's see where they did
Yeah,
that come to fruition? Let's see. Yeah,
yeah,
okay, he
a3.
plays it. Oh,
Yeah,
this looks
Sigarov has to do something about the bishop, but like, what do you do? Suddenly, kind of traps his own bishop. The
Maria, you
last
know how the Hikaru game where we're saying, oh, he has this nice space advantage. He just needs to figure out how to get his pieces out. Here it's like he's got the beautiful space advantage and his pieces are out.
and the
So
pieces are, and
yeah,
he has more time, and he's in a very comfortable match situation. Magnus only needs a draw.
yeah. So this seems to have not gone the opening phase, if we can call it that, seems to be very much at his advantage. He goes g3.
He's also first to attack the pawn chain
He has
on.
the 2 bishops. If he opens things up, that bishop is going to
Yeah.
be a monster. So he's opening
Oof.
up the whole board. G3, b4. I mean, h4 also is on the way, I
This
think.
is like a dream position for anyone. Like he can play on this side, he can play on this side. He doesn't even need to worry about his king. He can just do this, and bring the rook to b1 and just steamroll.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. I mean, both are currently trapped. Like there are no pawns traded, which means both sides are kind of like in closed positions. But the moment something opens up, some pawn trades, there will be fireworks, and I don't know if Javahir's house will be safe from those.
From the fireworks, yeah. From
Yeah,
the indoor fireworks, it looks like.
indoor fireworks, exactly. Like it's like you put a petard inside his inside his little castle, and it's gonna blow up from inside.
So I
Okay,
think they had a
d6.
couple more moves. Yeah, bishop a4.
Oh,
Castle, short/long
short
castle.
castle. This is
Yeah.
how you do a short castle. Well, and then Magnus says, "Okay, you castle that side. Come on, I'm coming for you."
But you know
H.
what? Like now, at least this king on b1, right? Like for Magnus, he also needs like there is now it's. I mean, it looks safe, but we see there's going to be the positions opening up. So I feel like for Sidorov, like this is a positive development. Like these complications, even if they're not good for him, that's still what he wants, right? So he
Yeah.
can get more winning chances.
He does not want Magnus to end up in a position he is happy with. Even if the position is close to equal, he will be happy if there are known patterns. If he can just go into his normal Magnus grind, squeeze the water out of stone position. Here, everything is hanging. Like white literally moved every single pawn. There is no way back, right? The moment it opens up, Sindarov also will have chances, right? He also will have open files. He will try to go for the king, and here the king is kind of like he can go anywhere.
It
Where
could
do
it
you
could
go?
it could get a yeah. You can't castle, you know, on the right side anymore, I think, because it's going to be too open. So you want to keep it on the left side. But yeah, is this their current position, or yeah, think this is where they're thinking?
I see one
Yeah.
weakness that I'm going for.
Yeah, that C pawn could be. Yeah, I mean, one thing I was thinking is like if Magnus wants to really close everything down, like can he try like G4, H5, like Bishop C6, B5, or B5 right away?
Yeah.
But because if he kind of locks it all down, he only needs a draw. But yeah, I mean, Sidorov's plan is kind of coming together in the sense that he gave up that dark square bishop, but he put every pawn on the dark, 7 of his pawns are the dark squares, playing defense. So that was his strategy. Okay, you can have one of my bishops. My pawns are going to act, you know, to defend the dark squares. And in the closed position like this, he's hoping that the knights may potentially be stronger. You know, that NHA doesn't look very impressive right now, but perhaps in the future, you know, if you can imagine the B and C pawn removing themselves, the knight can get to C5. So he's keeping lots of pieces on the board. So you know, that's what he needs to do, especially playing black for the win.
Yeah, but this is a good point. Like, what if Magnus pushes B5? Well, currently, I guess this, I don't know. Can you, like,
Yeah,
because
you can.
next what I want to do is this, G4. And what does black do?
Yeah, just if you just play like super like ruthlessly try to shut everything down. Yeah, I mean the things for objectively the move B5, it's probably I don't love it for white because you kind of block off your bishop and maybe lose some opportunities to trade on C5, releasing the tension. On the other hand, if you're okay with the draw and you can you can block everything, maybe something like that could be considered. But like you said, we do have to calculate the consequences of these kingside trades.
Yeah, like if you take, can we take here?
Yeah, rook F3, like H5, rook D3, like
Yeah, this might go not so well for Magnus, but
yeah, I
can
don't think
also be.
you don't want this if you're
If you can trade
yeah.
queens, then maybe it's fine. Although now this is hanging. Suddenly everything is
I
like,
would take black here. Yeah, it feels
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
white's really trying to survive at this point. So, and then we have one more game I think we haven't checked, right? That
Yeah,
we
we
could
have
quickly look at. The
Gukesh
world
with
champion,
Reza. Oof. Okay, so it's the most different scenarios on all the boards.
which is great.
F4, F4 first move. They really don't trust each other's judgment anymore, but we've seen so much madness happening. How can you trust anyone in this tournament? F4, F6 from Alireza. E4. Yeah, they ended in a draw. So these two players are both playing in the same match situation. At least nobody has to go with the craziness. D5, D3. Okay, so this is like similar to Magnus, but kind of like
Reversed
shifted
if we get
towards
yeah.
the reversed, right? To the
Yeah, I mean if black
way.
plays D4 here and then C5,
Yeah.
you could say it's like the Magnus game, yeah.
Except they didn't go for this craziness. Yeah, I actually do like black's position.
Yeah, he's got great control of the center, right? Like this D3 move that we saw that didn't get the approval potentially of the computer. It did feel a little passive. Actually, I didn't like this F5 move because it feels like you're just helping black undermine. Like you get your space on the king side, but black is immediately countering in the center. So yeah, but we see like so I guess Gukesh is like his plan is I'm going to attack that king side. That was his strategy.
Well, the thing is, when you are playing against minor pieces and you're trying to restrict their movement, doing it on the right side in this particular setup doesn't make much sense because they are already like crumpled, but like they have one way out, and that might be just enough. And the moment they get out, they shift to the side where there is space, and they will just roam freely. So when you like blocking this doesn't make that much sense, I feel like. I don't know. Also, he just doesn't have enough time for that. Now after the trade, yeah, Gukesh goes for g7. We see the same rook lift, preventing it. But like, there is no king. There is I don't know what is exactly he trying to attack.
Yeah, let's
Right?
find out. Yeah, he's really committed to this kingside advance, but and then we have our first castles of the day. Feel like, oh no, second. Sorry, we saw the
Second, but
castling
first
or the
long
siege off.
one. First
First
long
long
one.
one, which is actually the short one, but yeah.
The shorter, yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, maybe it actually will work. But it's just this setup really works when the king is on this side. But
Yeah,
here,
like how do you break through? And this is the position we're currently at, right? Yeah. And
mhm,
also, yeah, I guess for Gukesh, for his king, right? Like you mentioned earlier, if he's going to be castling long, you gotta maybe keep an eye on that A2 pawn in some lines with the bishop on G8 spying over here.
mhm,
Yeah, this was a very I'm really surprised by his approach. Like he was so committed very early on, like F5, G5, H4, right? So he came up with a plan,
everything
he's
is
sticking
towards
to
that.
it. We're not completely convinced right now because it feels like, Alireza has the F6 point protected and the G7 pawn protected. But at the same time, if you can't play that F7 because, or it's, I think you can't play that F7, maybe you can, because it feels like G7 is hanging, although maybe there is some knight takes G5. So you need to start calculating that. But I guess maybe that was his plan, where he's going to put so much pressure on the king side that you can't develop. Knight D6 also, yeah, maybe now, yeah, Knight C4 is coming. You just give up that pawn and go for
It's quite
some
possible that
counterattack.
it's quite possible Alireza is just saying, I don't
By the
really
way,
care.
Knight C4 has a pretty nice threat. So let's say you go like Knight H5 here because the knight's hanging, and then I go Knight C4. I don't know if it's the best move, but I can't help
Yeah, we
myself.
are not going for B2,
Yeah,
chat. We are not going for B2.
yeah, because I blunder a pawn in F6, but you can have it. Yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
Whoops.
Whoopsie. Yeah, smothered mate on move. 15. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see if that happens.
Well, of course, you have multiple options how to tackle this, but you do weaken your king, and that's what Alireza wants. His other knight will come. For example, you play b3.
C5.
Well,
Yeah,
it's not really hanging, so
not at all.
we can bring the other knight. And this already looks very problematic. You have that knight trapped on h5, this one undeveloped. Even the bishop, which didn't make a single move, is part of the game. All the pieces are literally lining up towards the king. So that pawn on g7 was a great sacrifice in this case. But yeah, well, okay. So currently we have multiple ideas. Actually, this is a very pretty checkmate threat. Maybe knight a4 first and then knight a3 with a
Or
mate.
Knight C3. Yeah, Knight A4, Knight
Or
C3.
knight c3. Yeah, very pretty. So what do you even do? What do you even do?
We'll let them figure it out for now. Yeah, but I don't think Gukesh will go for that G7
No.
pawn when he sees all this.
Yeah, well, he did play bishop g4. He's really, yeah, really eyeing those out. But yeah, we had a quick look at all of the 4 games. Hikaru played one move, also bishop g4. That's the position now. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to do a quick break, and we will be back with more action.
To Satorov as Hikaru tries to get a victory in his match. I'm joined by women's FIDE master Maria Emelianova, and let's jump back into the action, see if we missed any moves.
Sorry.
That was a
Yeah,
long
okay,
break. We need to get back
that
to
happens.
our commentary.
Coffee went to the wrong throat. Sorry, guys. Hi, everybody. Okay, that was awkward. But I was just very impressed that Alex, you pronounced my name in a Russian way with the right accent to Emilianova. That just got straight to my heart.
Well,
Um,
I do have the advantage of speaking the language.
Nice. Nice. No, still very appreciated. Yeah, Hikaru is in a driving seat, although his time is getting a little yeah, a little low. It does make me a bit nervous. What do
Yeah,
you
it's
think?
only move 10. So he has invested an hour of his time so far.
Mhm.
Um, saying that, as you said, you like his position, and there's nothing wrong with his position at all. It's just, I think we made a comment, hey, he's falling a bit behind the clock when he had 55 minutes. Now he's got 35. So that is something that definitely may be a factor. And I'm sure that Nordebek is well aware of that, and he's going to try to use his time advantage to have a long game where the longer the game drags on, the more, he can try to get Hikaru into some time trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Hikaru. Oh, he just did make a move. Okay, so we're in time. Queen f1.
Mhm.
Queen f1. So he's obviously preparing to castle.
I was
Uh,
wondering, that's true. He might be prepared to castle. I was thinking, is he going for like Queen H3, which would be a double attack of sorts? You attack D7, you
mhm.
attack H7. Of course, Black would still have the move Knight of Fate, so you don't win any material. But yeah. By the way, earlier on, if we could go back a moment, because I know right before we went to break, I think Hikaru had played this move Bishop to G4.
Mhm.
And actually, I quite like that move, right? Because the bishop finds there's a lot of all the central pawns are in the light squares, so the bishop is a bit restricted, but not on G4. You get this nice diagonal. I think earlier you mentioned that Black may be going for some F5 break, so that's going to be a lot harder to achieve.
Yeah.
And after Nordebek plays Queen C7, unpinning himself, Hikaru now plays the move F3. So we were talking about F3 almost the whole game. Like, we got to play F3. That's going to open up our knight. That's going to open up our bishop. But this is actually very excellent positional play from Hikaru, because he's saying, okay, I will play F3, but first let me get the bishop outside the pawn chain. So I thought that was a very clever decision by him.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually didn't think about it, but this move, I like it. It serves a double purpose. It does prepare the castle, but as you said, this maybe is not a threat, but if we do get, well, for example, okay, some move, if we do get them to play Knight of Fate, then Black also cannot castle yet.
That is true. That is true. And we can castle here, which will
We
also
can.
defend our bishop on G1, which
Mhm.
now would no longer be a potential liability with the bishop on B6.
Yeah, exactly. And also having to play Knight f8 is not the ideal scenario. You do put the knight back from to where it came from.
But we do have speaking of castles, are you seeing what I'm seeing? We have two of them.
Wow.
I feel like I forgot about that castling for Nordebek completely, because I feel like we're so focused. Oh, we're going to castle queenside, castle long. He actually goes the other way to the king side, and Hikaru's the one who castles. He does follow the plan that we thought he would with his king castling, but I did not expect to get opposite side castling in this game. Felt like they were both going to go on that the left side or the queen side.
But also pay attention to the transformation. Look at the position now for black and compare it to this one. It just looks suddenly in one move.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a normal chess.
Yeah, yeah. It makes now it looks, you know what it is? Why I forgot about this castle is because I forgot the rook had a move because Hikaru's rook is zigzagging, rook e2, rook c2. So it made me forget that the black rook actually hadn't moved yet. It was on e8 because that was the starting square. And yeah, it looks quite, I mean, there's still, these pawns in the dark squares, it kind of reminds me of some Indian positions like King's Indian or something like that, or old Indian position. But of course, you have this bishop in a5, which is a little bit unexpected. Forget about white's pieces; those are all over. Those are not on the squares you would expect. But the black pieces here are, yeah, this bishop in a5's, that's actually a great improvement for black because in the King's Indian you normally have that bishop trapped behind the pawns. Here it's outside the pawn chain.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
also,
Both bishops.
both bishops, right? And for Hikaru, maybe he's going to have his eye on some bishop e6 down the road, especially if he can support it with f4, f5, or something like that. So that could be an interesting outpost in the center of the board. I wonder if we're going to really get with opposite side castling, generally you get both sides trying to attack each other, but it seems extremely difficult for black to launch any pawn storms because Hikaru's rooks, especially that rook on c2, make it quite difficult. Like a move like b5 would be natural, but obviously it would just be impossible because of you're going to lose all your pawns then.
Yeah. Exactly. CB5 immediately. So it looks like Hikaru might be first to create something real. Like he could play h4, then bring queen h3, and then push. In fact, even having a knight on h1 maybe is not such a big deal because this rook can just swing to the king side easily and join the attack. That could get quite dangerous very quickly. So
Yeah,
Nodirbek probably needs to.
it's still hard to, checkmate's still very far off, right? Even if you do get h4, h5, I still feel like this is going to be, I mean, of course they have almost every piece is on the board, so the game can take so many different directions in the future, but it feels like it's going to be, in the upcoming moves, more of a positional struggle because still Hikaru has the space advantage and it's closed. There could be a bit of maneuvering. Does Hikaru want to invoke some trades with moves like knight f5? Does he want to push that pawn like you alluded to with h4? Or does he want to just simply maybe go knight f2, knight d3, breaking out one of his least developed pieces? So it's still, I feel like, going to be, despite the opposite side castling, still going to be a bit of a more positional struggle in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 moves.
Yeah, and it's true. The players naturally always want to normalize the position, right? They want to get something they are more familiar with, while, of course, having more space is a bonus. So here, black just looks like normal chess. Okay, the pawn on d5 creates a little bit of difficulty to have more play, but at least all the pieces are naturally developed. Hikaru, on the other hand, does have two pieces stuck in a corner, but he does have a lot more space. So it's a balance, and I feel like if, as you said, he brings the knight to d3, he might have positional advantage already then. At the moment, it's just there on a balance. So maybe this is time for Nodirbek to invest some more time.
And by the way, I think as this position becomes more normal, I have to point out this game between Fabiano and Keimer. I just took a quick peek at it. This game is the furthest thing from normal. Look at this position we're currently at with what is this move g5?
What
all
on
the
earth?
pawns are hanging. Fabiano takes. This is an insanely sharp position, and it's so funny to compare these
Where
two.
did we leave it? I think we left it
After knight h4 and move 5. Yeah, so Keimer actually sacrificed the pawn. He played e5. Fabiano said, okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to play f4. Keimer's going for the g2 pawn. In fact, if he takes on g2, he's actually trapping the rook on e1. So you're not just attacking the pawn, which, by the way, I guess if you play knight e3, there's g5. There's also d4, of course. But I thought there was g5 as well. Yeah, d4, now you still have a problem with the g2 pawn. So, okay, we're getting more moves from these guys. So
this is crazy. Like the engine says you can take on a 5?
yeah, but just
how?
I don't know. Can I not take it
Because
back?
of this takes.
I mean, I'm up a piece, no? My calculation
Yeah,
skills off?
I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not really. Why is why is white taking on F? Is that just the only move? The
Yeah,
knight
well, the
has no
problem is
move.
that you can't go forward
Oh
because
yeah, I
it is
forgot
of
about the
squares.
bishop
Yeah,
on g8.
and
That's
if you
why.
go
I
back
was
to
like, yeah, we
f1,
just go
mhm.
there. What is the problem? But we can't.
Yeah, it's like you ever seen those memes like
So
the
knight
bishop from
e3
the
just
corner, like you think you have checkmate, but the bishop flies in. I don't know if
yeah.
you've seen those. Yeah, here.
Yeah, actually I have a reel about that as well, but with the
Mhm,
planet. Like
mhm. It's from another
bishop
planet.
circling the planet, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like that bishop on g8. Wait, but look at this move Fabiano played instead. After knight h4, he plays c4. He said you can have the pawn on g2. I'm playing c4. So Vincent takes it. He's like, okay. Then what did we get? We got bishop a4 attacking the rook on e8. c6, he blocks it. e4, g5. I think this is the moment. And now they're starting to go for some. I mean, yeah, so now they start to
This
go for
is
some
madness.
trades.
This is absolute madness.
So takes. So we do get some moves. Queen takes with check and bishop c2. And this Vincent thing. Oh no, he takes the pawn. I was going to say, why not take? Bishop e3. And what's the material cap? Because Vincent sacrificed the pawn. And
Mm-hmm.
now I think he's up a pawn because he grabbed c4, he grabbed f5, he grabbed f4. Like he must be up something at this point. And he is. He does have an extra pawn.
It is an extra pawn.
And
And I don't understand where is the compensation.
well, I think Fabiano might take back on g5 in the near future. But also with this move c4 that he played earlier, now his king is going to, you got to be a little careful. That king can get into some potential trouble
Mm-hmm.
unless you're able to castle out of there pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, well, first of all, where does the queen go here? I feel like
Yeah, not too many squares, right?
I guess we have to go back to
Well, if you could try to go to
f7.
g4 if you want to protect the pawn on keep the pawn on g5
Yeah.
protected, and you also attack g2, so that looks like a move that could be quite possible. And then next
What
up,
ab-
maybe I go bishop a5 and long castle or something like that.
what about this square? If we like, I think we're gonna lose the pawn anyway because we cannot allow queen d6. So either the queen has to come back or the bishop has to go to, but then maybe also e5 can be a, like if you take, oh, ay, 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 we cannot do this. I thought we can,
There's
but we
queen
cannot.
c8. Queen c8 it's still alive.
Okay, okay, but
But
I
this position, I wasn't, to be honest with you, if I can have a small confession myself, I wasn't too interested in analyzing. I was more interested in looking at it because when I saw this position that not that they had, I was like, what is going on here? Everything is completely completely hanging. And I thought it was really funny because we're like, oh, Hikaru's position, it's getting a little more normal. Like, they're going back
yeah,
to
this is not normal at
and
all.
this is the most random position, most Trisha random position I've ever seen. So I thought it was worth taking
Yeah, this
a
is like
sneak peek at
complete
it.
freestyle.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Hikaru did,
He
it
made a
seems like
move.
he did a move. Yeah, we have knight f5 on the board. He's offering a trade. But I guess his other knight can come. He's also offering a trade of the bishops. Let's not forget about that. That bishop did a lot of moves. Our bishop did no moves. So trading it is probably a plus for white.
I think one idea for Nodirbek here might be, if he's taking a sneak peek. I know it's been a long time since we looked at Sindarov's board, but one thing he did there was he started putting all his pawns into dark squares. And we do actually still have some remnants of that game. But yeah, look at his pawn structure, right, with all the pawns in the dark squares.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to say in Nordebek's game, once he trades those dark square bishops, he could actually do the same thing. He could start putting the pawns potentially in dark squares
Mm.
because now he's not blocking in his bishop. And I thought that, yeah, after Hikaru played knight f5, you trade knights, trade bishops, maybe play c5. and start potentially pushing.
Yeah, so you mean Nodirbek will take a page out of
Yeah,
Sindarov's
exactly. So first he takes an f5 here in this position. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I was considering. Let's say bishop takes. Now we get bishop takes g1, queen
Mhm.
takes. And I don't know if you want to do it right away, but I was like, yeah, is there c5? And then later I try to go like a6, b5. So, but then you would, the interesting thing is that there are, yeah, I don't know about a6, a5, b6. I don't think I'd go that far, but I want to go with the b5 pawn break so that I could open up some lines potentially against the king.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this is the best he can do, but it would be kind of funny to see him, you know, like you said, just taking a page out of his Patriots positional sort of setup.
Yeah, that makes sense. For white, it's gonna be more difficult now with the bishop on f5. I feel like it's both like a nice piece to have, like, yeah, attacking this h7, taking these squares under control, but at the same time, like, we cannot easily push pawns without having to deal with the fact that this bishop has no squares to go to. Like, for instance, black moves the knight, and then maybe g6 is already something to deal with.
Yeah,
Like
he should have bishop e6, but definitely have to watch out for potentially getting
yeah, but
trapped in
then
some
we are
cases.
losing this amazing pawn on d5. Like, we are losing the pawn, we are losing, I don't know, maybe, okay, it's not really well calculated. Like, white, of course, still has tremendous attacking opportunities with both rooks also ready to join the battle. But still, it's committal to lose the d5 outpost.
Saying that, we do have Nordbeck spending. He does make a decision. Where did he end up going? Did he go for this trade? He does go for these trades.
He
Yeah.
took.
I don't know. Like, again, we have to remember he's in a must-win situation, so it's got to be a little careful making too many trades, right? The more trades he makes, the closer the game gets to simplifying and removing some of those dynamic chances. At the same time, he kind of had no choice. That knight and f5 is very, very strong, so it makes sense he got rid of it. So now again, the question is, does he want to do this trade? I mean, he doesn't really have a choice there either. Although maybe he could consider waiting, and that if Hikaru takes on b6, maybe he can take back with the a pawn and try to open the rook. But I feel yeah, you kind of do want to launch this attack on the queen side, but it's not so simple with Hikaru's rooks being well placed to potentially counteract any of those pawn pushes. So it
Yeah.
feels like, yeah, it's getting a lot more normal, as we said, but also a lot more consolidated for Hikaru's position. He's in a super, super solid pawn chain, no real weaknesses. He's getting some of these passive pieces out. So, and his time disadvantage is improving. Also, yeah, he actually does have this queen h3 threat. Yeah, well spotted. Yeah, he has this checkmate now in h7. That's a lot more dangerous than just merely attacking that pawn, as we saw earlier in a similar variation.
Yeah, I feel like Hikaru definitely is not going to take on b6, allowing Nodirbek to get some idea on the king side attack, king attack. But yeah, queen h3 could be an idea. We are not worried about g6 because we can always play bishop e6, and now queen is defending it. But we also are looking into something like g4, g5, rook g2 in I don't know which order. And the knight becomes quite versatile piece as well. It can both go to f2, g3 and support defense on the king, but it can also go to g3, h5 and join the attack on the king. So it's a nice piece and it does not even have to move. It's already prepared.
Yeah, it's like oh, we do have a rook c. Hold on a second. So yeah, wait a minute. You had this queen h3 idea, and what has changed?
Wait,
Because
but what? Isn't it the knight on d7?
well, you can go knight f8, but the rook on c8 is going to be hanging, right?
Yes.
So he should have played like rook d8 or something. He might have just blundered this queen
Is
h3.
this a blunder? Is this actually a blunder?
Unless he's just going to give up h7, which I
But
doubt was his
that's
plan.
madness. He just castled there.
I think he just blundered it. It's one of these things where you miss this you almost never see this bishop f5 queen h3 pattern in a classical game, and he just forgot about it here, I think. So yeah, he should have been listening to our commentary, even though it's not allowed. He would not have missed it then.
And look at his body language. It looks like he almost tries to hide his face. Like he rarely sits like this on his opponent's time.
I'm looking. You think
He is freaking out, I think. Did he just notice it? And Hikaru is definitely seeing queen h3. That was the whole point of playing queen f1, to have that idea.
yeah, we're gonna find out
That's
soon enough. Yeah, but I think he just it's one of those things where we've seen it in other games where there's mistakes are possible very early on in the game because the patterns are a bit more unusual than you're used to. So
Mhm.
unless, yeah, I don't see any like 5D chess explanation. Was no, he actually wants to sacrifice the exchange and play knight f8 because then he's gonna get the bishop pair.
But okay, well, usually you sacrifice exchange for positional advantage, right? But
Mhm.
you still need to defend h7. How do you even defend h7 with knight f8, right? That's
Yeah, because the
just
knight is
played
also
it.
hanging,
He
right?
just
And
played
he
it.
played it very quickly.
Okay, so for example, he goes there, takes with rook. I suppose we don't want to trade more. Now we can take on b6, and you have to
Yeah,
take the pawn.
yeah, knight f2 perhaps. I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say, just gotta be careful. I'm not blundering some c takes d5 with the pin, but I feel like I can manage because the rook on c8 and queen c7 create some pressure on the rook on c2.
Yeah, this is maybe something
Yeah,
to immediately take
I
care
can
of.
play rook c3 as well if I
Yeah.
want to keep the rook protected, I think.
And then our plan is simple. Rook g1, g4, g5.
That's maybe possible. Knight f2, right? That knight on h1. I don't know how much
Mm-hmm.
long I can bear it sitting there in the corner, although
Ah,
it's
it's fine. It's fine. Maybe we will win the game without even moving it.
yeah, we'll see. But we're getting moves from both sides, but I don't. So we have bishop g1, rook g1. Okay, what's
That's
the?
like the worst. You're losing material, but you are also forced to trade more material, right?
Mhm. Well, the question here is, what is Nordebek's idea? Was this a genius sacrifice, or did he totally
Is
miss
it
this?
cg5 actually? Is he
Bishop takes
sacrificing a
d7.
piece?
Bishop takes d7. Oh, he made a move. He's made a move. Okay, hold on. Wait. He goes
No.
rook d8. So he's
What?
no. Yeah, he's not giving up the exchange, but giving up a pawn in h7 with check in front of your king. This was not his plan. This was not what he
This,
planned when he played rook
no, this
c8.
is definitely a blunder. Like there is no way. There is no way he is sacrificing on h7 willingly. Hikaru is making so many faces. I wish I could take photographs right now.
Photo chess.
Yeah. Activate my second job.
And I'm looking, yeah, I saw the way that Nordebek pursed his lips there definitely proves it was a blunder. I wasn't sure until I saw his lips. I analyzed the shape of his lips there that he made. Now I understand it was actually a blunder.
Yeah, this is not just a free juicer. The pawn next to a king like that. mm, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a
not only
pawn.
you
It's
are losing h7, you likely have to give up g7 as well because you will never be able to defend it.
yeah. The question is here: can Hikaru just play g4, g5, right, or something like that, and then the rook on c2 could swing over to g2? So can he just go, all out for this? Well, not even all out. Just like can he just go for the attack straight away? Also, after g4, you get ideas of knight g3, knight h5, as you pointed out earlier. The only question is
Mhm.
you got to keep an eye, like not to like have some, like if black can play rook c8, then there could be a situation where c takes d5 could be a threat just because of the pin on the c file, but it's also
Mhm.
slow. It's all very, very
Well, we
slow here.
can just actually we even have.
Yeah, I guess here, c takes d5 was what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But there's to try to take advantage. Yeah, like e takes and bishop d5, but there's all these like queen h8s potentially. Oh, sorry, I'm completely forgetting this. Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah, the
I'm blundering.
bishop.
Yeah, now I'm blundering this bishop from
No, there is a bishop
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I
Because
mean,
now after
that bishop,
ED, the bishop opens up. Yeah.
that bishop is just never on a5. Just never ever have seen a single game where on move 10 you would have a bishop on a5, and that's I think what played the role here.
Yeah, when he played Queen 8, when Hikaru played Queen H3, that bishop at f5 was the hero with the double attack. And now here again, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to attack the rook on c2. I also forgot about the bishop at f5 being able
Yeah.
to defend my rook after
Yeah,
the
no,
e-pawn is
me
gone.
too, me too.
So very tricky bishop.
So
Hikaru,
here
and,
g5 is a very real threat already.
yeah. But what happened? Hikaru is thinking, right? He hasn't played g4 yet. Now that he hasn't even taken an h7 yet.
He didn't.
Yeah,
Maybe he's considering
with the
bishop take.
bishop. Yeah. It would be hard to resist queen takes, right? Because you feel like you bring that queen so close to their king, and it feels like you should be able to make some magic happen there. But perhaps
Yeah.
Hikaru is like, okay, let me take a moment here. The guy just blundered. Let me not get too excited. Let me just make sure I'm gonna take advantage of this and then make sure there's no counter chances.
I think Hikaru is just being a bit frustrated, like he is almost getting a game with not much input he had to do. Like his opponent just
You think he's frustrated because it's too easy? Is that what
it
you're saying?
seems easy. It seems like why? Why
So
would you do that, right? Like
So
you
he's losing out on content, you're saying?
yeah. He's like, okay, not 2 pawns yet, but yeah, g7 is hard, very hard to defend. Like, if black could get rid of this bishop on f7 somehow and have king on f7, then you have
Well, I
rook
was actually
c
going to say,
over.
maybe one thing he's thinking about, or I'm thinking about, is after queen h7, king f8, maybe black goes king e7 next. And now you just try to hide the king in the center and go like rook h8, rook, and try to trap the queen. So maybe Hikaru's thinking, okay, I can take with the queen, but maybe I just need to kind of bring it back. Although I would imagine that, it doesn't really, it can't be too dangerous for us, but
No.
just kind of trying to figure out
Like,
what
for
Hikaru can
example,
consider.
g4, king e7, well, we already can take.
Yeah, you can take, right? Because, well, actually, my idea was, I'm trying to trap your queen, like rook h8 was what I wanted to do after queen takes g7. So I can threaten rook g8. But, yeah, I'm a move short, yeah, because you get to make threats of your own.
Yeah, you have both bishop e6 and bishop g6. And the queen cannot help, the knight cannot help. It's all so crumpled there.
Just trying to find ways to mess this up, but it's hard, it's hard for
Yeah, it's very
for
hard to
white.
find any compensation, any way to justify this crazy decision. I feel like giving up an exchange was maybe the least of the problems for Nodirbek.
Yeah, but he's got Hikaru thinking here a bit. Although, I mean, what are your considerations? You can take any some of the queen. You can take with the bishop. Both look quite reasonable after bishop takes king f8. I guess you would just bring the bishop back to f5. So that doesn't seem like a bad idea either. He does go queen h7, by the way. He has made his move. And it was hard to imagine that not being played, but perhaps Hikaru was also thinking ahead. And now maybe we'll see another move relatively quickly because he was obviously he knew Nordebek was going to play king f8.
He was calculating further.
Mhm.
I guess g4 makes a lot of sense, just from human perspective. Like, he could also play bishop e6, because you cannot really easily take this pawn on e6. Like, for example, take, we already threaten with this and queen g7. So I don't think black can even take on
Can't
e6.
take there. That looks like an annoying bishop. Definitely a reasonable move. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, to me, I'm sure, I don't know if it's the best move, but it just felt after g4, it's like, oh, nice. I have g5 coming and knight g3 coming and maybe rook to g2 and my rook. It feels like it activates a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
Plus,
Can we actually just go for queen h8?
Yeah, I guess.
For the same reason,
yeah, here you have
because
bishop
this is not
e6.
possible because of bishop e6. So they have to give up another pawn. Well, here you get to attack my queen first.
Yeah, you have to go
I
with
do
queen
have a very
h6.
easy escape if I want to. I guess I will just leave. Yeah, maybe this is too straightforward. Like, we don't have to allow the rooks to activate. Oh, he plays rook d1. Is it d6 pawn that he's eyeing out?
Yeah, just maybe consolidating the center.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we were looking at some lines where the black king goes to e7. So Hikaru is thinking, hey, you might have to watch out for some ideas. I mean, not not maybe king e7 immediately, but one thing I was considering is that now with the rook on d1 in some positions after king e7, maybe I can play c5. And I'm trying to, set up some d6
Yeah.
d6 forks in the near future. But
Yeah.
Maria, let's take a very short break here. This is a nice moment. We have what seems to be a blunder from Nodirbek. Hikaru's very well in the driver's seat, and we'll come back to see Hikaru hopefully finishing the job and just
And welcome back to what seems to be smooth sailing for Hikaru today in the game where he only needs a draw. It seems like Nodirbek is trying to go for more. Maybe he's had enough. Maybe it was a blunder. I'm not sure. But Alex, I'm very hopeful for this one.
Yeah, this game really took a massive turn just a couple moves ago, where strategically complex position seemed to have been have a dramatic blunder when Nordebek missed this Queen H3 move. If anyone's joining us just now, like you mentioned, Hikaru just needs a draw to win his mini match here against Nordebek Abdusatorov, and perhaps he's going to be going for more than just a draw here, since he's got an extra pawn. He's got his queen next to the opponent's king, and he has no problems in his position. So looks like he's in great shape here as we pick up the game.
Yeah, exactly. And during the break, we could see his faces in 4K. And I can see that he almost feels sorry for Nodirbek to having to defend this position. But it is what it is. He did it to himself. Yeah, the engine is again saying, nope, not this one. Nodirbek just played knight c5.
I think at this point, especially considering we shouldn't really pay. Well, I don't
Yeah,
think it's worth paying attention to what the engine says is a mistake or not for Nordebek's moves, because he needs to play for a win, and he's playing for a win in a position where he's losing, right? So
yeah,
he's not going to be
yeah.
trying to make moves that are like, okay, maybe I can hold the draw, maybe I can
Uh,
play a little bit,
uh-huh.
safe. He's going to be like knight c5, forward, like next
Yeah,
up is
yeah.
a5, a4. Like, I don't know what he's going to do, but he just needs to, start going for all out. So even if every single move that he plays next is going to get a question mark, as long as it's an active, aggressive move, that's kind of the
Yeah.
best you can hope for.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alex, because yeah, the engine tries to consolidate. So for engine, anything where black is not trying to draw is a mistake. And for Nodirbek trying to draw, he'd rather just offer a draw now, and I'm not even sure if Hikaru will accept it. But he probably can't, as a losing side, as playing with black in this position. I mean, you can kind of cheekily say, draw, mate. Maybe Hikaru will just shake hands and go, because he's not even gaining anything from that. No rating, no nothing. And he indeed can then play Freestyle Friday.
That's true. If he finishes this game, within the next 2 hours, then he's going to be in time to get his even more fix of freestyle. And yeah, Maria, as you pointed out, in this case, really no reason, if there's an opportunity to make a draw, why not, right? Because there's no rating on the line. Actually, I'm sure there's been many examples, but one thing I can think about is in the World Cup, right, where you have this giant knockout format. Sometimes you have these matches that are 2 rounds. And you'll have a situation where someone wins the first game, then you're playing the second game, and maybe you have a win or an advantage. And of course, if you make a draw, you're good to go to the next round. But players start to think like, wait a minute, like I'm doing pretty well here. I mean, I get these couple extra rating points. I remember there was a candidates tournament that Fabiano Caruana that he won, and in the last round, I think he was playing Alexander Grishuk, And at that point, if Fabiano got a draw, he was going to get clear first, which is
Yeah.
obviously a huge in the candidates. You're going to play the World Championship match.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was his position was so good, and more importantly, it was so safe where he didn't feel like he could lose. He was like, you know what, I'm going to play for the win, and he won.
Yep.
So it has happened before, but anyway, we do get a couple of quick moves from both sides. Hikaru plays bishop to g6, offering a trade of bishops. Why not? He's ahead of material, and he actually has a nice threat after bishop takes f7, king f7. At the very least, one thing he can do is knight h6, check, and then he's going to pick up the rook on g8. Exactly. So it's not just the trade; it's also a tactic is being threatened for Hikaru here.
Yeah, I also wanted to quickly mention the reason why here Hikaru did not take on g7. We'll have the look at a similar position earlier. The reason is because the only thing, well, this is not going to happen. The only thing that Nodirbek wants is to kick away the queen. So then he can fully focus on trying to create something on the king side, plus take this pawn on h2. That's why Hikaru brings the knight, because with this move, if you do that, this is already not gonna work because f6 is hanging. So then everything falls to pieces for Nodirbek. That's why he brings the knight in. Although, of course, everything is winning in this position, it's just much faster if you do keep your pieces around the king and checkmate. In fact, black cannot even defend the king with all of his material. Like, he has a queen, but he cannot easily bring it over to help. So Hikaru has massive material advantage in this attacking. I mean, I feel so sorry for Nodirbek.
Yeah, this is not obviously how he wanted to go out. Even if you do suffer a loss or don't get your win,
Not like that, yeah.
exactly, not like this, right? Where you just kind of make a blunder, the game's over. And by the way, in this position, one other idea Hikaru has after bishop g6 is that he's also freeing the f5 square. So his knight's going to go to e3. And to be honest, once that knight gets to f5, it's completely over because you're attacking the king. The pawn on d6 is under fire. That is just going, everything's just going to collapse. So I don't see this game lasting much longer because now it's like he's down a pawn, he's down the position, everything is so bad. So yeah, it's a tough way to go out because even if it doesn't go your way, you would hope that it's because your opponent plays a great game and not because I made one silly blunder and now I'm gonna be wondering what how it could have gone better. And yeah, but I'm sure you've seen I've seen a lot of your photography right of these top level players. So have you ever seen Nodirbek playing in person before?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
In fact, first time I've seen him play, I believe, was 2014 even.
Oh, when he was very young, yeah.
He was like 11. I don't think he was a grandmaster yet.
So
Yeah.
the reason I bring that up, we were looking at some body language, and I just took a peek at the camera, and I see Nodirbek, he's burying his face in his hands. I played a tournament a couple of years back in Qatar, that big open event where there was Nodirbek and Hikaru and Magnus, and that was the first time I saw some of these players in person. And I remember I think Nodirbek actually he won that tournament, or he tied for first in that tournament. And I remember I was seeing him play, and I was like, when he's playing and he's like, he's winning, he wins a lot of games, of course. He's one of the top players in the world. I was like, this guy, like the amount of like aura, for lack of a better word, that he exudes at the board. Like I feel like he's just like rolling through his opponents. Like he feels like he plays with so much energy and confidence. And now I'm looking at him here, and he's just like, oh, like that's not the Nodirbek I'm used to seeing. But
No.
That's what happens when you blunder, yeah.
That's the thing. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Qatar Masters. That's exactly where I saw him for the first time. That was his first major tournament, and I think it was also his first time playing in the same event with Magnus. I even took a photo of him when he asked, I think it was his one of his parents who asked his mom, yeah, she asked if I can take a photo with Magnus.
This
So
is
I
in
have like this,
2014 you were talking
yeah,
about?
I have
Or?
this little Nodirbek, like super small Nodirbek next to Magnus, and he has this like cutesy smile. His mom was very happy.
Again,
And
this
yeah,
now he has lots of photos with Magnus, I'm sure.
yeah, but different ones, not like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I remember he was I believe he beat like two when he was 9 years old. I remember there's an article he beat like two grandmasters in a tournament, so he was on the radar for a long time. And we see Hikaru, by the way, he does bring the knight to e3, but not before earlier. Look at this really nice sacrifice he made. He gave his pawn back with c5, and the reason he did that was because he wanted when Nodirbek played knight a4. I mean, okay, he's not really threatening checkmate, but
no.
more importantly, after c5, knight takes c5. Now the knight can go to e3 since the queen on b6 no longer covers that square. And honestly, now with knight f5 arriving, like that king on e7 is yeah, it's not gonna be too long for Nordebek suffering here, I think.
Yeah, this is that position is so much in Nodirbek's style, but with white. He would play exactly the same moves. It almost feels torturous to see him play this position. And Hikaru probably already has some lines going through his mind of how he will start his recap video. And I think from now on, all the moves, chat, are for us. This is how Hikaru will play specifically for the video. So this
That's a
is
good point.
this is
He's
for
already he's not calculating the moves anymore. He's calculating the
no,
recap.
no,
He's pre-moving the recap.
yeah. This is going to be over in just a few moves. I guess we can stay here and focus on the end of this game, and then while we wait for Hikaru, we can cover the other games.
Yeah, we don't want to miss the finish here. I think that you know, in a normal circumstance, I would not be surprised to see a resignation from Nordebek now or in the next couple of moves. But since you know, there's nothing, you know, no one's ever won a game by resigning, and you know, there's nothing really to lose for him. I think he'll make a couple more. And also, I think for chess players, for me, for certainly, sometimes you know you're going to lose the game. You're actually you don't even mind resigning, but you need a couple moments or a couple moves or a couple minutes to kind of come to terms with the fact the game's over. So you kind of make some moves, and then you're like, all right, you know, now I'm ready to resign. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, material is equal, which is kind of funny because it looks like White's position is so crushing, but yeah, the problem is look at Black's pieces. They're all in the back row. Hikaru's got the queen on g6 and knight on f5. Just complete domination of Nordebek's position.
Yeah, it's funny when you said giving a pawn back. That's not really the same kind of pawn. It's not really something that you will settle for that h7 pawn for the c5 pawn, especially that white can easily win another pawn if they want to. But that's not what Hikaru wants. Hikaru wants a beautiful checkmate. That's all he is trying to master now.
Yeah, I think there's nothing immediate. Like I was like, do we have like a knight takes g7? But that's a little too fancy. We
Only
still
two
need to be
pieces left here after the trade, so
yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. Yeah, h4, like that was a move you were talking about earlier, and that's a very straightforward idea. It
Yeah,
looks
because
maybe a
you can
little
also
slow.
bring the rook.
Exactly, but Black has nothing to counterattack that.
No.
Another idea at some point could be like a simple move like rook to d2 potentially, and try to create pressure on the d file. But I think that h4 idea is even more straightforward. So Hikaru is going to be yeah, making sure that he doesn't give any counter chances here. We'll see. Yeah, h4 looks very strong. Like I'm trying to think of anything Black can do. Like try to desperately like queen c7, queen f7, you know, run away, try to like get the queens off the board. But you're opening up yourself up to so many potential tactical strikes. Like potentially I can even take card takes at c6 right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are simple.
Yeah. Actually, now if you take with the queen, now I might be able to go knight g7, since the queen on b6 will no longer protect the rook on d8. So like queen c6, knight we do have that board. So yeah, knight g7, rook g7, queen f6. And
Nice.
now a lot of rooks are hanging.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, and Hikaru will see it.
Yeah, I mean, I also think he might be able to just play rook c to d2, and then that pawn on d6 drops. So that's the less fancy way of getting some material.
Yeah,
But
but I like this. I
that's
like
definitely
this.
a move that
Let's show it. If this,
check.
and you cannot defend everything.
Mhm.
Your rook, yeah, both rooks. This is basically a fork, because the king cannot defend both rooks. You go here, you lose this. You go here, you lose this. So that's gonna. Oh, he plays more solid.
No risk, no risk. Yeah, it's just rook cd2. But, he's he's like, I'm gonna save some energy. The one iota of brain power to calculate knight g7. I'd rather have that energy for the Freestyle Friday coming up on chess.com. So rook d2, don't need to calculate. Just take on d6 next. And yeah, he's gonna be up a pawn in that case, but I'm looking at that king and a fate, and that's going to be a much bigger issue than the material.
Yeah, exactly.
And the
Yeah,
rook in
maybe.
g8, it looks like if you told me, okay, this is a position from freestyle chess, I'd be like, yeah, of course, king f8, rook g8. That's where the pieces probably started at the start of the game.
Yeah, that you can castle, right? But that's not the case. They actually did. He castled and then he brought his pieces back to look like freestyle chess position.
And Hikaru's pieces look completely normal now, right? Like the king's castle, the rook's on the d file, knight at f5, the pawn structure. You could not, this looks like maybe like some Sicilian that went horribly wrong for black, right? If you showed me this position, that would be maybe one of my first thoughts.
Hikaru is making faces again. He's like, anything else? Anything else? I'm ready. I mean,
He's
if he
got his
doesn't
jacket
defend
on.
on d8, he will take on g7.
Yeah, he could take a d6 on g7. Maybe he's got some other moves he's plotting.
The thing is, Nodirbek never resigns.
He doesn't. Like, when you say never resigns, do you mean he plays until checkmate?
Well, he rarely gets checkmated, but he usually, well, if it's an equal position, he will play to bare kings. He will never offer a draw in a completely draw like equal endgame. Theoretically drawn endgames, he will still play them to the end.
We see a card, he's taking the most sort of practical, pragmatic, simple approach. Maybe if, keeping the queens on the board was also possible because the black king is so weak, but he's like, it's fine. We trade. I'll take this pawn. And at the end of the day, not that, as we said, Hikaru just needs a draw. So, they could even
So
just
he is
agree to
going
one
for a draw.
potentially. I don't think he's going for draw, but he's also like, it doesn't even matter, right? If he like sees perpetual, he probably would even take that, right? Because it's like, hey, let's finish
Maybe.
things out.
But maybe he just wants a longer recap. He's like, if I take on g7, I'm gonna end up just not being able to talk about anything in that recap. It's gonna be too short, so I've got to like at least go to an endgame. Let's just go to the endgame and I can talk about something. That's funny.
That could be the case. Yeah, you'll have to ask him. But I think it's more like simple, solid chess. He's obviously has zero risk of anything. Can't blunder the queen anymore. Can't blunder anything. Maybe not the most precise moves to get a quick win, but the moves that will guarantee absolutely no chance of anything going wrong. Is that we see he has an extra pawn. His rooks are more active. His knight is more active. Hard to say anything here is in black's favor for Nodirbek.
Yeah, nothing. But it's still interesting to see what Nodirbek will. How is he gonna continue playing? Like, it's just.
Yeah, like rook d7 here. I'm gonna try to gobble up the pawns on the queen side.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nodirbek, I don't know, like he's gonna rook h8 at some point, right? Like try to activate the rook or something.
But then you can just play h4.
Yeah, and then you're still very
You
passive.
try
Yeah.
to defend this one, we attack the knight, and if the knight is out, we take everything is falling.
Oh, yeah.
Try to defend this, we take on b7.
Yeah, something's got to give. But
I think Hikaru is just curious at what point Nodirbek will resign.
well, he attacks the knight, right? That's a start for Nodirbek. Maybe Hikaru will miss it. I
But the thing is, we maybe even don't even need to move it.
well, yeah, I guess you could argue. Oh,
Look,
well,
look at this, look at this,
yeah.
just look at this beauty. If he takes the knight,
Oh, and you
we
have
take
checkmate.
back, and if you move the knight,
Yeah, I mean that's
or
if
you
he
can do it with this rook, even more beautiful.
if he plays that move, then that's a very that's a very constant idea where it's like, oh, you're attacking my knight. I'm gonna show you how helpless your position is. That I don't
I
even need
think
super
no,
defend
I
it
think
or
Hikaru
move it. Excuse me.
calculated. I think he calculated all the moves. I think he's gonna do it.
Let's see.
I
I
think
saw
he's
he's
gonna look.
reaching over. He
Yes,
does.
yes, yes, he's going for it.
Wow. He gets a
Brilliancy.
brilliancy.
That was calculated. That's what's calculated all these moves from the back.
Yeah, brilliant brilliant move here. I think for anyone who's watching and they're thinking, hey, I want to play a brilliant move, I think you almost always get a brilliant designation from Chazakam when you make a move. When one of your pieces is under attack and you don't defend it or retreat it. Well, as long as your move is actually good, right? Because otherwise it would get a blunder, right? If you but generally speaking, like Hikaru's knight's hanging, he ignores it with his own move. And that I think I've always see those moves get brilliance. So but yeah, you could also get a double question mark if you genuinely just lose your piece. So I guess I should have prefaced it with that warning.
Yes, yes. If your piece is hanging but you are still winning after your move, then it's likely brilliancy. That's why there are so many brilliancies in Bullet. You just don't notice that it's hanging, but you kind of
Oh yeah,
still
but you
on
accidentally
the right track.
yeah. But this is a flex, you know. It's not just a brilliant move. It's kind of like G6. Yeah, you don't even have a threat. Rook D6, and yeah, it's you know, and I'm trying to set up some other mates. You know, like Knight H6, Rook F7. You know, maybe for white in the near future. Trying to find some other ways to get a smothered mate here.
Ah, yeah. This looks cute as well. Oh, he goes to H8.
Oh, he stops our plan.
Aw, that's so mean.
Knight H4.
Oh no, but we're still going for a checkmate. We're still going for a checkmate. Knight
Knight takes
G6.
G6. Very yeah.
And
How
we
are you
won't
gonna
even
stop
take
that?
on H8. We will. Oh my god, this. Oh. Rook defending a pawn from H6 is definitely not a good sign. Well, still some checkmating patterns here. Oh,
Nope.
okay.
He's on to us. But yeah, you
Yes.
could trade Rook A6, take someone to Hikaru up 2 pawns. It's gonna be 3 after he picks up the A7 pawn. Yeah, I guess Nordebek, you know, I mean, he's just making moves out of inertia, but if we try to come up with like some dreams for him, he would love to play like Knight D4, G5, Rook takes H2, find a way to activate those pieces, but obviously there's so many resources. You know, every time there's G5, there's always Knight F5.
Oh, we can
So
just march the
yeah,
pawns.
yeah. Now Rook A6, for example,
Yeah.
you could take an A7 with check. So that's 2 extra pawns and counting. And counting. Someone in chat said, is there any chance Hikaru will play Freestyle Friday? I think there's a huge chance he plays, especially if I know this is the last round, but there's going to be like maybe some tiebreaks. I was going to say, unless there's some like closing ceremony he has to make it to, I feel like he might just be like, hey, you know, why not play this Freestyle Friday? We saw a lot of the players, Hikaru, Magnus, others, right? They played Title Tuesday on Tuesday.
Oh,
And here we go. We have the
resignation.
result. Yeah.
Resignation. Wow. I expected that he will play for a bit longer.
He's had
Okay.
enough. And with this victory, Hikaru wins his match against Nordebek.
Yeah, 2-0. I was curious if there will be any discussion, but it's probably best that the players just leave and Nodirbek will try to forget about it.
Yeah,
He
I
might
mean,
admit. I was thinking he might admit it, but it's probably also obvious that he did. He did just overlooked.
he overlooked your Queen H3 move. That's what
Yeah.
it came down to. And I think with this, does this mean this gets Hikaru 5th place, right? Because they were playing
Yes.
these consolation brackets, so he finishes in 5th place. What is the wonderful prize for that? Do you have that ready at hand to pocket watch him, or?
The prize is not. I think it was it 50,000? I believe it was 50,000 for the 5th place. Yes.
50, yeah, someone in chat, yes, says 50, someone says 40. Oh, here we go. Here's our, we have a nice command, prizes. So 5th is 50,000. Very,
Yeah.
that's not, and by the way, for Nodirbek, that's 40 grand. So pretty good prize from him as well. So this was a 10,000 game match. So yeah, high stakes. And yeah, it's not first, obviously all the players, I'm sure they're, they're very, they're very competitive. Everyone wants to win, but it's not a bad consolation prize. And this is just the first event of many, right? We're gonna this entire tour, Hikaru is gonna have an opportunity to come back and improve in his score, right? In the later legs of this competition.
Yeah, and we do have confirmation that, well, the full field for Paris leg of the Grand Slam that will be in April is yet to be finalized. Obviously, it also depends on whom they will pick as a wild card, who will accept invitations, who will qualify through the online qualifier. But Hikaru is definitely qualifying for it by rating. So top 3 players qualify automatically. That means that him, Fabi, and Magnus are automatically in Paris. So
Yeah,
more
I see.
freestyle coming.
I was also checking this regulations that we have, and it said we have the 3 we have the 3 top spots in Weisenhaus, so in this leg. And then you have the 3. So I guess this takes precedent, right? Because there's players like Fabiano and Magnus.
6 people, yeah.
But I'm saying like Fabiano, they qualify by rating, but because
That
they
is
get
a
in the top
question.
3 here, does
Yeah.
that count first? That's what it sounds like, right? Like they get in by the top 3 finish here. And then you have 3 more players by rating.
It depends what comes first, like same as in World Championship cycle. Is World Cup first place higher than qualifying through other means? But that's for Weissenhaus organizers to decide. Maybe we should quickly have a look at other games. Which one is your
Well, I think the one you
most
have
favorite?
on is one that we should definitely check into because this is for first place, right? So
Yeah.
this is quite interesting. I think we actually didn't miss that many moves because
No.
when we left, there was all these complicated pawn captures. And by the way, I do have to apologize. I missed something in this game that I want to amend. I missed the forced en passant that Fabiano also missed. If we go back, there was a moment we had an en passant opportunity after
Yes.
hold up, was there after did we? I thought we had one. Oh, did I?
Yeah, there was one. There was one.
Was one?
Was it in this game though? I think it was
I thought it was somewhere here. Did I
I think it
miss
was
or did I?
Sindarov's game.
Oh, okay, I see. So right, never mind. I thought oh yeah, when he played F5, it was not, I confused F5 with G5. So okay, I rescind
No,
my
it was
apology.
Sindarov's game.
I rescind it.
We
Okay, I
did
see.
see this position. We left it here. Here, yeah, Kamer made the best move. Queen to F7.
Yeah, so at this point he was actually up a pawn, but both sides were still getting out their pieces. So what happened? Knight G6. Then okay, Fabiano got his pawn back.
Mm-hmm.
Queen F4.
And queen goes back.
Yeah, force the trade or trying to force the trade.
Mm-hmm. Attacking G2.
Yeah, that pawn is. Yeah, and then we have long castles. Well, he grabs it with a tempo. Now knight e3, fork. Can we do that? Well, fork, but in the sense that you're attacking 2 pieces. Wow.
Whoa.
So is Fabiano planning like a
is...
knight d6, rook g7, like checkmating attack, like in the end game, basically?
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? So you do this.
Yeah, knight d6 and like rook d8, rook g7 attempt. Yeah. And hard to stop.
You will have to take, but then they take with a check.
And then king c7, I take on d6 with a check, and you're losing
and then you take
all
that
your
rook
material.
as well.
So a very creative idea from Fabiano. The question is, does it work?
Well, yeah, depends. Well, I think he doesn't have to lose that way. Like he can just move the king.
And
But
rook
he has to
g7, you run up
calculate
the board,
all of
king
that.
b6, rook b7, you hide an a6, I think. And now an a6, so you can keep an eye on the rook on b7.
Yeah, and you now cannot take here easily, so that might be actually winning. Like,
Yeah, and don't forget, you know, Keimer has grabbed this rook on d1, so he has a material advantage. So Fabi's in a must-win, right? So even if his plan, like, if you know, because alternatively, if he doesn't go for this, it looked like they were going to make a lot of simplifications. So perhaps Fabi was like, you know what, YOLO, knight f5, you know, knight d6, rook g7, and try to go for this this attacking scheme, and perhaps Vincent will miscalculate something and make a mistake.
yeah, he's got to hope for something. I mean, it's unlikely he will miss this checkmate pattern. That's not freestyle. It's normal chess pattern.
Well,
It's
we
not
did
like that
see a
bishop on
blunder in
f5.
Hikaru's game, right? So we
Yeah.
have, you know, we've seen it already. I also wouldn't bet on it, but I'm not ruling it out either at this point.
Yeah, you go here and
Same
you
problem,
can
yeah.
resign pretty much.
And you can't long castle either, or you can't castle at all because the knight makes it illegal, right? Because you can't castle
Yep.
through check.
That's a good
So
point.
yeah, otherwise you could sneak out of there.
But I think it's a simple calculation for Keimer. I mean, he can also just trade,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, I was thinking of that, but I would still be a
It's
little
enough for a
scared.
draw as well.
Yeah, but if white gets like rook d7, rook g7, right, it could be a little scary. So it looks like, yeah, I see he can play bishop d5 to stop rook to d7.
But then
But yeah,
maybe
like e6 you can't take because you have back rank issues.
yeah.
So it feels like, you know, the bishop on e5 is really strong though, but white can try like, I don't know, rook g7. It feels like white still has, I'm sure if black's accurate, he'll be fine, but kind of feels like white's keeping some hopes alive. But yeah, that's what Keimer's working all of that out right now.
Yeah. But once he sees that after king c7 he's completely fine, he will likely go for it. All right.
Right.
Well, let's
We have
switch
a
to
couple other games,
Magnus.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Magnus game. We saw it. Ooh, more
We
brilliances.
didn't see that. Yeah, let's see
More brilliances.
how we got there.
We had this position, right, where Magnus potentially had a chance to close something up. Well, he did not. He's going for the throat. Queen g2, idea is h5. Engine did not like that, but I don't know. I'm not sure why. Seems completely natural to do. Rook b1. Engine is hating every Magnus's move.
They don't look bad though.
No, they don't at
I
all.
have no idea why. Like rook b1, okay, he plays rook b8, you play rook b1, why not? Maybe you can take
Yeah,
on c5
yeah.
down the road. So yeah, looks quite decent.
I mean, look at this, the pieces.
Attacking
Like
the bishop. Yeah.
they have to like go through a lot of trouble to land on normal squares. Okay. And he's
this is
sacrificing on f3, right?
Yeah, well, but the rook on b3 is keeping an eye on that bishop. So you have a lot of like knight e5, knight f4, right? There's so many things you could take. This looks. What I'm actually curious. Could I not have gone knight f4? Oh no, the knight in d8 controls e6. Okay, I was like, I don't have a fork on e6 if I tried that. Yeah, it's not really a sack, right? He's kind of like, you could take there, but then I'm gonna have.
But yeah, it's temporarily sacrifice, and
Yeah, so
it
Cedar, I'm gonna go for it.
improves his pawn structure tremendously with the absence of pawn on d6.
So we saw Cedar of throw in CB, but this is where Magnus played his brilliance. Knight f4. Wow.
Gee,
So I
what
guess
if
if
we
it takes,
take?
there's bishop d4 is the idea. And now that knight at f6 is under tremendous pressure, it's hard to defend. You have to go with the like queen. Yeah, I don't know which one. If e7, there could be e5 as well, right? If so,
Maybe, yeah. Maybe
but there's
still
e5 anyway, yeah. And after you take, I'll take with the rook, and then I'm threatening rook f5. So I'm suddenly, yeah. So the point of the sacrifice for Magnus, he has the dark square bishop. Sidorov does not have one. So now his bishop is going to be unopposed at the center of the board. So that knight is poisoned. So brilliant move there. I think the double question mark, excuse me, double exclamation points are well deserved for that one.
Yeah.
Whoa, ace-6. Okay. So some counterattack here. Trying to open up white's king.
He's trying, and he has to try. He has to try. Looks like Keimer actually went for the line we discussed. He took on d1 and knight d6 happened. We'll see in a moment what happened there. Bishop e8, trying to trade at least something. But look at this sad, sad knights.
Yeah. So, but what is going on? Magnus grabbed the pawn at f4, but Sidorov grabbed this pawn on a3. So it's actually equal material, but this pawn at a3 probably won't last very long. But Magnus probably doesn't want to take it too soon either, because it keeps his king safe, right? I think one term I've heard for this pawn that I like, it's called the spy, because it's like it's your opponent's pawn, but it actually keeps your king nice and safe. So Magnus might not be in a hurry to take it.
I think they also call it umbrella, because you use it for the king's safety, because the opponent cannot take it. I guess Magnus moves the knight away with the idea potentially to play f4 using the same pin again.
Yeah, perhaps also some ideas, maybe like knight g3, knight f5, as we saw Hikaru try to bring his knight to a similar outpost. So I think we have knight f6. Yeah,
blocks the 6 ray at least for now. But Magnus swings his rook again for b6, and now
he goes for f4.
Classy. That knight cannot do everything at once, right? He has to do something. And
another and the same idea. Wow,
same
beautiful.
Idea.
So now if
the
you
knight wants to go to e6.
Yeah, and if you take bishop takes rook g1, that black king is going to be in a lot of trouble. Actually, yeah, it was queen g3 also. Yeah, is the king running to e8? It looks very scary, but yeah, maybe it could survive.
It maybe is fine somehow. Like if it lands here, black is fine. Wait, we are a piece down, right?
Queen c4 is an issue, right? Queen takes c4 check is a major threat.
Yeah, that's the problem. So maybe we cannot go directly for that plan.
Yeah, I was thinking, does it make sense to use the rook because I wanted to keep the queen defending, but I see there's an even more powerful move. You don't give any checks, e5. And you're saying, that we're coming for you, Mr. King. You just wait a moment.
E6,
first, we're going to steamroll the center. Yeah.
And if you take, still same idea. E6 is the pillar of this attack.
Yeah, well, here you're also threatening the same queen g3 check, and then after king f7, now e6, then you're hitting the queen, and everything is falling apart. So, yeah, Magnus is really farming this idea, sacrificing the knight. And is Sidorov still thinking, or did he manage to respond to this knight d4? No, he's still thinking.
He's still thinking. Meanwhile, a lot of development in Fabi's game. Let's quickly diverge. Yeah.
Oh, lots of development.
Yeah, they actually went for that exact.
Wait, he got castle?
Wait, what? What? I think he did. Wait, it's going very quickly now. He did castle after rook g7, not knight d6 immediately, but first rook g7. He castled.
Okay.
Takes. I mean, it's similar to what have happened if he took on knight f5, right? Instead of taking on d1. It's
except this way he managed to get castle too. So wait, so he's up a pawn, but we have this dangerous passed h pawn for Fabi. So he's got one clear strategy: promote that pawn, or at least make black give up material for it. But yeah, this is Vincent's up a pawn. His rook is perfectly placed behind the passer, so it's going to make it much harder for Fabiano to promote it. And he can start his own plan, right? a5, b5, b4, rook h2, c3. So he's going to have tremendous counterplay on the queen side here that should more than neutralize Fabiano's h-pawn.
In fact, I'm not sure if castling was even beneficial for black here.
Well, it did get his rook in the game, right? Don't forget about that. The rook, I think, was at a8 or something. So
that was the idea behind playing rook g7 first, that he cannot go for that move anymore.
Yeah, but I
So-
think Vincent's idea was quite nice because even though he's up a lot of material here, he has a lot of passive pieces, so he just gives them back. Hey, I'm going to give you some
Mhm.
material back, but now my pieces are very active. So yeah, he reaches this end game. Just obviously needs to keep an eye on this past each pawn for white.
Yeah, this should be it should be fairly easy draw for Vincent to do, but who knows? Well, I was gonna say time trouble comes, but then wait a minute. He somehow managed to save 30 minutes on his clock.
Yeah, I mean here I wonder if he could even. Okay, I guess you can't. I was gonna say, can I just be very annoying and start giving you checks? But I gotta be a little careful, right? Rook h2,
Yeah.
like king c3, rook
Yeah,
h3, king
don't.
d4. Well, no, but then there's rook d3. Wait a minute. So you can't go.
I
If you go king
mean,
e3, can I grab it, or is that a little like tempting fate a little bit there?
sorry, what? Where?
I was gonna say I could take on b2, but then maybe I'm being too greedy instead of giving the check.
Yeah, I
Uh,
thought about it, but
yeah, it's scary. H6, then I go
really,
back.
it can get
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, rook h8, kick
Check
here. Yeah,
here.
h7. It's getting close. But I was thinking I have my pass c pawn
Well,
to distract you.
you cannot play to d6.
I don't want to.
That is a big mistake. Worse than what Nodirbek did. But if you just hide the king from
And then you
checks,
could put on c5 actually, which would be a
yeah,
very nice square.
or even b4 and push c6, c2. I mean, worst case, if you do grab a2, if you manage, then you can give up the bishop for this pawn, and there is
I
no
could give it
way
up even without a2, I feel,
you
because I have
can.
so many
There is no
pawns.
way Fabi
Yeah.
is gonna win with just bishop and the rook against all these pawns.
You know what I would be thinking about as a thought experiment? If I grab that a2 pawn and I push my queenside pawns down the board, I could maybe give up my rook for the pawn. Then I'm gonna have
Maybe.
4 pawns for the rook.
Actually,
But
maybe. Yeah.
that's very that's just for fun, that's no need to do that. But yeah, Vincent just needs to keep an eye on this h1. But we see this line, even when white gets this pawn to h7, it's so difficult to make further progress because the black rook is behind it, paralyzing the white rook. So it looks like this whole endgame, Vincent should not have any trouble holding it. If he does, then he's going to be the champion of this Weissenhaus Freestyle Grand Slam.
Yeah, like his idea is simple. Go with bishop here and take, and white cannot even stop that. Like if they try it that way, right? We can even start pushing our pawn. But okay, now suddenly the engine is saying, Maria, you are rubbish. Because
So still need to be careful.
this is now an
Yeah.
idea to promote, so we will have to give up. We cannot even give up a bishop easily. So yeah, it can get a little complicated.
Yeah, so there, of course, we have to watch out for the pawn. So as you showed in that line, where if you get a little too comfortable, white does come up with some ideas. But we do see Vincent go for this check. Now the thing is for white, I think he has to go king e3 because the problem is if you go king c3, I'm just gonna go rook h3 check, and he doesn't mind the draw. If you go back to d2, if we're king d4, yeah, we're rook d3, we should show that, and the king can't get too far.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
You
the
cannot
repetition seems
really
to.
go
Well,
to
if you go up the
d4.
board, I'm gonna think about checkmating you. Like, suddenly the king is
Yeah.
in trouble. By the way, we have someone's asking in chat, how did Hikaru do? He won. He won today after a blunder from a Nodirbek Dusatorov, which gives him the victory in their mini match and 5th place and $50,000 and chess 960 rating points that don't exist yet, but if they did, he would have gained quite a bit from these 2 wins. So he did get the win.
Yeah, get the dab. We are still unaware what happened in Ali Reza's game, right?
Yes. Oh, he's got a queen.
He's got a queen. Okay, I think we left them somewhere here.
Yeah,
where
we did not
Gukesh was
like
really
Gukesh's
pushing.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this little
You can't castle anymore.
box? This is a
Yeah.
little box. Wrong rook, Gukesh. Wrong rook on d1.
I don't think I've ever seen such a big divide between pieces. Like Gukesh has these like rook, king, queen, rook, like boxed in, but then his
Mhm.
pieces are 4 ranks away, like 2 knights
Yeah.
on the H file. You cannot have these pieces any further apart. So quite bizarre. It feels like his coordination is just completely off.
There is no coordination.
Yeah, no coordination. A4, at least, that's I like that move. He wants to play rook A3, I think. He was
Yeah.
trying to like at least find a way to develop
Yeah, and then
that rook
his
at
king
A1.
is basically castled without castling. Just move it, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like Alvarez's play is so much easier. He's like in the center on the queen side, and Kesh's
Mhm.
pieces are kind of tripping over each other a bit.
Yeah, these pieces are just dominating. Gukesh's knights have lost their I don't know meaning of life. What's the meaning of life for those knights?
We
Okay,
have
he's
seen,
trying to create
oh,
something.
look at that wonderful move from Alireza. Ignoring the pawn, he just shifts the rook over, creates massive threats on this d file.
Yeah, but you cannot take. Like if you take, well, let's take with the pawn. Do we first? Where do we take? Oops, there are so many things that we can take.
Yeah. Is there some 94? There's some really weird stuff that I'm
There
seeing.
has to be something, right?
94 looks fine. I
Take.
was gonna say I have a weird idea here. So, oh, it doesn't work. So after 94, yeah, I was gonna say there's some positions where white can play G8 queen, and the bishop at C4 covers it, but not really because it's pinned to the bishop. It's pinned because of the bishop at E2, but it doesn't even look like white can get that. Yeah, 94 looks good. Like knight takes C4 here, I think is at the very least one of the
Yeah.
great ideas here.
Yeah, let's just skim through because we are ready to
Sure, of
show
course.
Hikaru interviewing, well, Hikaru being interviewed by ChessBase India. Let's just skim through. I have a feeling this is how Gukesh did end up losing his queen. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's exactly how it happened. He had to give it up, otherwise his pieces are just falling like a card card.
House of Cards.
House of cards. Exactly. Yeah, and this is the position, and he's probably going down in this one. Yeah. So we are ready to show Hikaru for you guys. He is being interviewed by Sagar.
Look at this game, and this seems to be completely.
Yeah, so I mean, I think my general view is that everyone's a little bit tired, both between yesterday and today. And I mean, it's not so much that the quality is dipping, but I feel like everybody's moving faster. And I think it's a very clear product of people that just you don't want to spend a ton of time thinking on every move. And so it feels like the games, at least in my opinion, between yesterday and today, are a lot sloppier than they were in the first couple of matches.
Yeah,
So,
which brings me to your game. I'll just start from the beginning. You chose D4. Was this something you guys like to prepare together, or you came up with this?
yeah, so I mean, obviously Fabiano and I looked at this move, and we thought it was a good choice. But I would also say as a general thing, in my opinion, you cannot afford to lose with white in a 2-game match, in Fisher Random. In my opinion, like it's just the chances of winning in Fisher Random when you're down 1-0 if you have black are worse in my opinion than in regular chess. Is what I
Really?
would say. And the main reason I say that is because I feel like it's not every position. There obviously are 959 unique ones. But there are a lot of positions where I feel like you have to mirror your opponent. You have to play like in this game. I thought D4, D5, or like even D4, F5. I mean, white just goes E4. And already here, like, okay, computer has some
Yeah,
funny line,
yeah.
but it's like it's very hard to play as a human because already your white has all the space, white develops very easily, and unlike in normal chess, all these hyper modern openings like the modern or the Pyrrhic, I think they just like they kind of lose in many cases, so it's really rough. And I think didn't Sindarov play D6, right?
Yeah, so we
And
had D6, we had F5 chosen by Vincent, and F6. So those were the three like.
Right, so like, okay, both Sindarov and Nodirbek needed to win. So like, you go D6, E4, E5, D5, and Magus has a bunch of space, and he's just much better.
Yeah.
And Nodirbek played F6, which I think is also very bad. But the thing that I thought with this game is that at least it wasn't super obvious to me how I was winning. Like, I'm almost certain, even without looking, that I was winning on like move 6 or 7 in this
Really?
game.
Okay, so E4, E5, okay, D5, just
Yeah, of
gaining
course.
space.
I mean, I saw this whole C6.
C6.
And then I played C4, which I think is probably not best, but the thing is I only need a draw here. So if I only need a draw, I mean, after c4 takes, queen c1, king c1, I think I mean, white's still slightly better, but I don't think it's very much. But I knew he couldn't do this because he has to win
He
the
has to
game.
win, yeah.
So he goes bishop a5, which of course is, I think, terrible too.
You didn't like
No,
it?
I saw bishop a5, but basically I thought that after rook e2, he's in a bad spot because he can't ever trade the queens. He can't trade the queens because he has to win the game, so he has to go and do something insane.
Yeah.
And so knight g6, and here already I suspect g3 is wrong. I think that probably if I go rook c2, knight f4, f3, I mean, I think I'm just better. There's some knight d3, queen e3, knight e1 stuff, and like the reason I didn't go for this is because I mean, like, why do I want to do this? I don't need to win the game. If I need to win the game, I probably can play like this, but I only need to draw. So it's like, why do I want to allow some complication? I like overlook one move and then
Something
suddenly
happens,
I
yeah.
lose the game for no reason.
So G3.
Um,
And actually, like I was telling the chat that you love playing King's Indian with black, and with this like closed position, you would have a lot of experience, especially like blitz and bullet games that would give you a lot of confidence in this.
Yeah, it's just very easy to play. But the problem is a few moves later, if you keep going. Right, so he played, what did he play here? Yeah, knight e3. I knew knight e3 was wrong too, but it's like I was already burning my time. We already know what happened when I got too low on time in some of the other games, and it's just like, what am I doing? So
would you like the moves, or would you prefer?
I mean, after d6, I'm curious what the move is.
Yeah.
I don't normally, I mean, normally I don't care, but just f3. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure, but it's also I don't want to burn my whole clock, and also I mean it's also like playing a bit of poker here because I always know on every turn he can't trade the queens.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if the computer says it's equal, he can't trade the queens from a match standpoint. So because he can't trade the queens, like I have some more liberties. And knight e3, knight e7 must be bad. Keep going.
Rook
Right, and he
C2.
played knight d7, right?
Yes. He played.
And I'm not winning here. Wow. I felt like I was actually the
Winning.
reason I spent so much time is I thought, yeah, so bishop g4. I spent forever on this queen c7 dc6 line, and I mean I had a feeling this should be winning. Takes, yeah, dc6, keep going, bc6, b4.
Oh.
Oh wow, I didn't see f5. I only saw bishop b6 here. f5.
Well, and the point is that if ef5, bishop b6, what changed?
I mean I thought bishop b6 I have like a c5 move and I'm doing fine. No, with the pawns of course. Here it's just bad, but I had this feeling that is bishop b6 losing? Bishop b6 c5, dc5, and I don't have anything here.
But yeah, with the king on b8, it's very easy to think that.
But it's dangerous because
yeah,
both sides,
exactly.
both
Rook
kings,
b2,
yeah.
knight c4 can suddenly come in the game. Okay, but yeah, you of course just needed a draw today.
So it's like I spent all my time trying to make this work. I also like because everybody looks with computers. I thought about going bishop h5 too. I was trying to figure out, do I want to force the
include
pawn
this
forward and then go back
move.
to like g4 or e2? And I couldn't make up my mind. So finally I was like, okay, this is all very stupid. Just play normal moves.
Yeah.
And so I went
played
bishop g4, queen
g4?
c7. Yeah.
F3.
I mean, the move that I really wanted to play bishop g4, queen c7. I really wanted to make queen f1 work, and I couldn't make it work.
With the same idea of hitting the.
Because I thought bishop f7,
Uh-huh.
queen h3,
Mm-hmm.
knight c5,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't make it work. So if I go f3, there's h5 here.
And bishop
Yeah.
h5, rook h8 would.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
be
like,
terrible.
I mean, again, I'm spending all this time. I'm looking at these b4 lines, and I'm looking at this queen h3, and finally, it's too much because I know if I get down to like 15 minutes or 10 minutes, like something bad's gonna happen. But luckily, it's very easy to play here. I just what I did in the game was.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I played f3.
F3.
I mean, okay, it's fine.
Bishop
Queen
f7,
f1.
queen f1.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how easy was it for you to come up with this idea?
It wasn't hard, primarily because I've had a couple of the positions we've already had to bring the queen out early. So the first game against Sindarov, there was this queen h8 g8 to get the queen in the game. There was the first game against was it against Gukesh? Or no, second game where I was black, where I went c6, queen c7, queen a5 very early. And I think there was one other game. Was it yesterday's game? I'm trying to remember yesterday's game right now. I'm drawing
yesterday, yeah, it was that queen trade end game, yeah.
For some reason I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember the game, but there have been a couple of games where you have to get the queen out early, so I've been pretty aware of these ideas of like trying to get the queen in the game or move the queen very early.
And also, of course, it allowed you to have this possibility of...
Right, which is it's very important. Because like also at the start of the game, I knew when he played bishop a5, I knew he was going to try and do something where he goes to the king side and I can't go the same way. But because of all the space here, like it's just I think white's just better.
And you just long castle.
I mean, he should play bishop b. Did he play bishop b6? He didn't, right?
He played bishop b6.
Yeah,
You
and then
played
yeah,
knight
I thought
f5.
knight f5 was. I mean, it's
You just
like,
want
once
to-
again like.
situation.
I mean, once again, I know that it's like if I need to win this game, I probably make different decisions. But like here, I have 36 minutes. Just get as many pieces off the board because as long as he doesn't get some attack on the queen side, I can't lose. So knight f5 I thought was fine. Takes, yeah. This is a blunder, of course. But
do you think he meant to take and then go rook c8, or I was just trying to deduce like that move? Like I mean, like what?
Yeah, I don't know what to really make of Nodirbek because there's a famous game he played, what's it, like 3 weeks ago in Tadassil against Arjun, and what he played is his Queen of the Knight. I don't remember which move he played, but he played some move, and Arjun, was it like h4 f4? I don't remember exactly what it was, but he played the move and he was very stone faced. Like I remember because I was covering the game and he showed no emotion then. And he made a very clean blunder. And then today he played rook c8 and he showed no emotion again. So I'm really unsure whether it was a clean blunder or he's just trying to put on a good face for the fans and to not show that he's unhappy. But I think it was just a blunder.
Wow,
is my guess. That's my guess. I think it was just a blunder. Yeah,
but also you were right. Yeah, like he was playing very quickly, and after Queen h3, yeah.
I mean, I also could tell he was trying to put pressure on the clock, obviously. I mean, it's no secret that I haven't played well when I've been low on time. But yeah, once I get Queen h3, now, I mean, time pressure will never be an issue. I'm winning the pawn on h7, and there are a million different ways to win. So the rest of the game, I think, wasn't really
and then you just
relevant.
went on to convert this very well. So you made a very nice comeback in the last 2 matches. You won both the games. How was your overall impression of this event in Weisenhaus?
But on the other hand,
I mean, I think the chess I played in the Classical was objectively very good. Obviously, I didn't play Vincent, Fabiano, or Magnus, who are I assume going to be the top 3 unless something happens to Magnus today. So, I mean, I'm very happy. I think I proved that I can play at a very high level, which is always a good thing. That being said, I mean, working on time pressure, things like that still do remain a serious concern or an issue. So that remains. But overall, I thought that I got good positions. I thought my understanding was pretty good, and it's about as good as it could have gone considering the start.
Hikaru, the entire chat couple of days ago was saying, Hikaru, please don't retire. Please don't retire. They were like, I hope that it was just something that you said just like that. Or no?
No, it was not actually. I mean, I think people, they fail to, I mean, it's very easy if you're on the outside, it doesn't matter what it is. It's very easy to look at things through a certain lens without any perspective or any understanding. And what I was saying there was, I mean, sure, I was unhappy. Obviously, I was a little bit tilted, but I still have the same view, which is that, basically, if I don't play well in the classical events, it's already hard enough because I have so many other things going on. So, like, I'm not going to just play if I'm not going to be competitive. And that was not something I just said spur of the moment. It's been on my mind a lot recently, but I would also say it's because of the sort of games that I lost. I'll give a good example. The second classical game against Gukesh, I was winning. Computer says I'm winning, but it was in a position where it's technically winning, meaning that Gukesh always has counterplay. There always are tricks in the position. So like even though I didn't win that game and I was technically winning, I'm not really all that unhappy because it was not something straightforward. But the games against Sindarov were games that were straightforward. If you look at the classical game, it's a knight versus a bishop. I have extra pawns. I should win that. You look at the blitz games, this d4 move with the knights on a5, e5, I should have won that one. But also the final game, I'm just up a piece, and I mean, sure, he has an a and a b pawn, but that's also a game that I should win, and there is no real counterplay. So when I look at the games that I've messed up recently, those aren't the only ones. There were games in the World Rapid and Blitz. There was a game against Merzin, a game against Neiman. There was a game against Erevind as well, where at the end of this Blitz game, I didn't play King A3. I think I moved to Bishop or something. I allowed him to go King B2, which was also just unconscionable. So it's a general statement, born out of objectivity about sort of the games and the conversions in recent times. And, we'll see. Maybe it's just a blip on the radar. Maybe I'll play great in Norway in the World Cup. But if I play the way that I played in the World Blitz and Rapid or the way I start off here, then that statement will definitely be true. So it's not about drama or being tilted or making some comments. I know Ivanchuk, I think, said this after he lost to Wesley So, maybe a decade ago. But no, I nothing has changed. I hold the exact same stance that I did at the time when I said it.
your fans are going to be feeling very
that,
sad.
So
Well, I mean, I think what I would say is, as people know, it's no secret that I don't have the time, first of all, to prepare the way that a lot of other players do. But then secondly, I'm also not getting any younger. So those things combined make it very difficult. And also, the world is changing a lot. When you look at the freestyle events, the prize funds are very big. They're significantly bigger than any FIDE events. If you look at the first prize of $200,000, that only the World Championship is comparable. You look at the Grand Chess Tour, I think first place, maybe they've made it 100. I think it's still 75, but I could be wrong. It's not quite the same. And then you also look at the Esports World Cup, where players are getting org deals into the six figures, potentially seven figures. And then you look at the first prize of $325,000 there. And so also I would say the landscape is shifting to where when you look at the candidates, for example, or the World Championship, it's not as important, in my opinion, as it once was. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone's going to try to qualify, but I would use what Ali Reza said the other day, where it's like, you know, the candidates, in my view, is a tournament where a lot of it comes down to who performs the best in that moment or who gets the right pairings. I won't go so far as to say it's luck, because then everyone's going to say, well, you're saying Gukesh got lucky when, of course, he played very, very well. But a lot of it comes down to things that I would say don't speak to the pure skill level. Like, you know, you look at Gukesh's game against Ali Reza, or you look at his game against Abasov. If those guys play Fabiano or myself at the end of the tournament, maybe we have a chance to win those games. Now we didn't, you know, the pairings are what they are, and everybody plays everybody twice.
Correct.
But those sorts of things I think can become very disillusioning. And if I use, you know, my own background, not even talking about Ali Reza here, in 2016, I put in so much effort into that. Like, I worked with Peter Lecco for a couple of months. You know, I prepared a bunch of openings, like the Queen's Indian Defense, where I lost 2 games, of course. And I really did it the way that you're supposed to. You spend months studying, changing your openings, having your surprises, and then everything went wrong. And then I contrast it with the candidates which I just played in Toronto, and I basically spent 1 month, if that, doing kind of semi-serious preparation and showing up, and then I had a great result and I almost won the tournament. And so, like, when you look at the candidates, I mean, my perspective is just it's not luck, but you need certain things to fall into place. You really need certain things to go right that are out of your control completely. And if you play well, good things can happen, but there's no saying that you playing well is going to lead to you winning the tournament. And so that's why I also don't really view it as being something super important anymore. I mean, hopefully I can qualify again. We'll see what happens in Norway and or the World Cup, I would say. But with all these other events, with these big prize funds, it's just not my priority. So if I'm going to not treat it as a priority, and I'm also not playing well in classical chess, and it's so much harder to play those events than say freestyle or rapid and blitz, then why bother? Is my attitude.
One of my last questions, Hikaru, like, of course, everyone is super excited to see you play here. What's next? Where can the player and fans and players watch you play next?
Yeah, so I'll be in St. Louis. There's a tournament at the start of March, just a short blitz and rapid, and then there's the American Cup in the middle of March. I'll be playing both those events. You know, I think also speaking about the bigger picture, how I do in the American Cup, which does have a classical component, and Norway chess will go a long way towards whether I seriously try to qualify. I think I'll just say it because, you know, again, I think everybody knows this. If I don't play well in American Cup and or Norway chess, I'll basically put all my hopes on the World Cup and hope that I can qualify. And if not, if that doesn't happen, so be it. But if I play well in Norway chess and the American Cup, then maybe I'll try to chase the rating spot. So a lot of the sort of terms I plan will be determined by the next month or so, and we'll go from there. But I will say the World Cup, I believe, is supposed to be in India, right?
Yes, that would be great. I think all the Indian fans are going to go crazy to see you play in India.
But for him, it's going to be a lot of jet lag, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually also people were wondering why I didn't play the Tata Steel event recently there, and it's because the last time I played, which I think was that 2023 or 2022, I was just jet lagged the whole time. And there's some really bad blunders I made, specifically against Arjun, I remember, in a couple of games, and so like I was jet lagged the whole time. I never got on the time zone, so that's actually why I didn't play there last year. But the World Cup, of course, I'll probably try to go a little bit early, and if I do play, it'd be great. I mean, it would also be fun to maybe finally meet Same. I think I haven't met him yet. I know he's been in the US. He's done some stuff, and also in the UK. But that would be actually a lot of fun because it's wild to see. I mean, I'm obviously I don't follow like Indian culture super closely, but I feel like at the start of the pandemic he was kind of a comedian, kind of known, and now he's like a big superstar everywhere. So it's really amazing to see what he's done with comedy and chess, and hopefully I'll have a chance to meet him, but also to meet the fans as well.
Wow, wow.
Thank you, Hikaru.
And
and,
Hikaru, Sagar, one moment. I just have one question to you because I think I had this doubt I was observing because it's the last round and Gukesh and Alireza, like all these energetic players are feeling low on energy. So, and many of you as well. So I was observing that is it true that the freestyle from move number 1 you're thinking it's a different kind of tiredness, yeah? Or can you elaborate on that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's tired, and also there's a point at which you have to make a decision. It's either you think and you try to play proper chess, you're just like, I'm just gonna play a move that I think is good, as long as it's not a blunder, I just go with it. So, it's very tough, and I would say it's much harder than regular chess because basically in regular chess you spend 70% focusing on the game, and I think in Fisher Random you spend like 99.99%. So I think that's also why you see a lot more blunders because people aren't actually used to it, and I think it's mentally very, very tiring. So yeah, but it's been fun, and I think I've proved that I can play, and yeah, hopefully I'll do well in the next event.
It was wonderful, and Atusa also was there today with us at the live stream for a while, so we really enjoyed with her as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a good event. I've enjoyed. I think it's just fun getting to play and trying to come up with the best ideas, and that's something that doesn't happen that frequently in regular chess anymore. So it's a good idea, and to have the big prize funds to have everyone following it's just fantastic. So it's been a blast.
Thank you.
Okay, Hikaru, thanks for joining us, and we are very excited to see you play next, and hopefully we get to talk with you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
And welcome back, everyone. It's great to hear Hikaru's thoughts on his game, on the future of his games. It's a lot of information to digest about all his tournaments. We are joining you back. This is International Master Alex Ostrovsky, joined by Women's FIDE Master Maria Emelianova. And we still have some games going. For those of you guys who missed it, Hikaru got his win against Abdusattorov. We also got another big result. Vincent Keimer and Fabiano Caruana drew their game, which means that Vincent Keimer is the winner of the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam first leg here in Weissenhaus. So a huge result for him, defeating Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana back-to-back, and the classical portion, no tie breaks. So fantastic result for him. And we have also a victory in the game between Alireza Firouzja and Gukesh Domraju, the world champion. Alireza won the game. He wins his mini-match. And last but not least, we still have Magnus Carlsen's game being played. And that is actually the last round, most likely the last game of the entire first leg.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This is an exciting event. I feel like watching it here with you guys has been way more exciting for me than being at the event last year in person. Because not only I can follow all of the games closely, I see more of the players than when I'm there taking photos of them. Because it's such a different perspective of the view. Like we have bird's eye view. We can dive into the lines. We can hear them talking about it. Like a lot of people tell, you have such an interesting life. You travel to those events, but I can tell you, taking such a technical role as focusing on only one aspect cuts away a lot of other information that you guys have a privilege to see here on the channel. So I'm really glad to be here. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, and hugest congratulations to Keimer. That's an incredible result to take down one of the best players in the world, and take down both the winner and the runner-up of the last year's Weissenhaus is also incredible result, and both in classical portion. With I don't think he had any like bad position throughout the entire event. It's incredible.
Yeah, very dominant. I think he got he was actually, I saw he was picked first, right? They have a format where you have the 10 players whittled down to 8, and then you select your opponents. And Alireza Firouzja, right? He had since he had the first place in the qualifier portion. He selected Keimer first, and Keimer went on to crush all his matches. So yeah, dominant performance. You know, the home field advantage was too strong. And obviously, you know, the other thing is, this is worth pointing out, I think, is it was you know, in the World Championship match between Ding and Gukesh, Vincent Keimer was revealed as one of the seconds for Gukesh. So obviously, you know, he was doing lots of work behind the scenes in terms of training, whether it was training games or preparation. And it looks like, you know, I think it's fair to say that work probably not only helped Gukesh, but it's helping Keimer tremendously as well.
Yeah, and it feels like it helped him way more than it helped Gukesh when it comes to freestyle chess. Well, not really a student, but he outdid his master, who was his boss, basically. I mean, remember Tata Steel? He won the last game against Prague on demand to allow Gukesh to go on a tiebreak and have a chance in winning Tata Steel. Yeah, no one, literally no one seen it coming, and I'm sure even Keimer didn't. Like, of course, he was not going to settle for being the outsider, for being an easy pick. Like, he did come prepared. He was like, it's still a only 2-game match. I have a chance against everybody. It's nobody knows what the position is at the beginning, so it's really about who assesses it faster. Maybe a bit of luck, maybe, but the stronger you are, the more luck you get.
Yeah, I mean, after so many games, right? Between the qualifier and the matches, I think all the luck cancels out, right, for everyone. But you know, Maria, one thing about this event that I want to point out is, you know, we obviously huge congratulations to Vincent Keimer, but we also have most likely, you know, second, third place will be Fabiano Caruana, Magnus Carlsen, fifth place, of course, Hikaru Nakamura. So you have three of these, you know, legendary players who are, you know, still, of course, very active, but already legends of the sport. But then first place, you have the young Vincent Keimer, and, you know, most likely in fourth place here, we'll have Javahir Sindarov. So really a revelation for the young talents in this tournament, who are performing as well, if not better, than the established 2,800 players. So I think that's very exciting for the future of chess in all formats.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a great age for seeing all the youngsters coming up. Probably we will see more new names last year, but it looks like we know more or less who is going to be on the map this year and in this event, in this Grand Slam. So we will see Javahir again, most likely, I guess, if qualifying through rating gives the next spot, gives your spot up to the next who was in the finishing.
That's a very important
bracket.
question for him, right? Because he got fourth. He's still playing his game, but currently he's down
At
some
least
pawns
fourth.
here.
Yeah.
So but if he gets fourth and they're gonna give the top three spots, oh, your top three, here's the spots. That's not great news for him, because he would rather have, hey, Magnus, hey, Fabiano, you guys are 2,800. Come on in. You know, you guys are the highest rated. So he would like it for the rating spot to take precedent first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or sorry, the opposite. Or no, wait, hold on, I'm confusing myself. Yeah, he wants the rating spot to be the first of order.
The first, yeah. Well, it's also maybe a little bit up to organizers, and then I see no reason why not to invite him. He was a crowd favorite as well, putting up a fight against Hikaru. Like, he was on the losing side in a lot of games, but he kept fighting. He kept trying to create opportunities, and it did work for him this time.
Yeah, and he's gonna need to create one more opportunity if he wants to have a miracle here. So looking at this position, it's since we last checked in, there's been some simplifications. Magnus was sacrificing his knight left and right with the brilliant moves, and now things are kind of simplifying down. But you have one of the most complicated, materially speaking, endgames, right, with queens and rooks, where, you know, even though the material simplified because of the power of these pieces, it's quite easy to make a blunder. Yeah, I think this is where we left off. And Java here had to figure out how to respond to this knight jump from Magnus.
Yes, a knight c5 takes. Still the same. Like, he keeps offering Yeah, no, here he moves the
He's
knight.
offering the knight, but for a
What?
trade this time.
That's yeah, that's everything is falling now. Everything is falling. He's not taking back the knight. He's taking the pawn. Now he's taking the knight. Yes, you cannot really capture because oh my God, look at that.
That's a funny move. And pawn takes, queen takes d4 check, and then the knight at b7 will be dropping. Also, king g8, there's like you still got to think about, is there some rook g1? So that could also
Probably,
be quite problematic.
yeah,
If,
this
there's
is
no mate
very
though. Yeah, there's no mate, but what in the game
close.
yeah, it's getting close. But in the game, what did we have? They traded, and now. Yeah, again, Magnus only needs, not to lose, right? So we heard Hikaru talk about that in his interview. He was saying, well, I saw some moves here I could play. If I really needed to win, I could consider them, but I knew that it's playing poker, because he called it, because he knew that there are certain moves that his opponent couldn't play because they would be too drawish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's very different when you see a draw from just result, and the game is completely different to another draw. Like it's in one game, no side had any real chances. In another game, they had all the chances. Or like today, he had a very easy win, very easy. Like he could go for an end game winning, he could go for a middle game winning. But when he played Gukesh, for example, it wasn't that easy. On paper you have the result that he won, but it was not easy at all because the opposing side also had chances. So this is where apparently the players were looking a lot at the score sheets. I'm not sure what happened here exactly, but this is move 40. Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't sure. I mean, I know we were wondering, did they think there's a threefold? But it's
No, I
definitely
don't think so because they just had an exchange on c5.
It wasn't even close. Yeah, so we're not
No.
really sure what happened there. So you have this position where both kings are kind of safe and not safe at the same time, right? It feels like, okay, like neither king is really getting checkmated, but it's you have to be careful, right? Like for black, the only thing stopping the king from massive trouble is the fact that the pawn in e5 is there. And yeah, here we get h5 for Magnus. So I guess his idea is just like, where are you going to go? I'm going to maybe put my pawn at h6, and that's going to continue building this cage around the black king. And in addition, he's actually up material, right? He's up a pawn, even though they're all every single pawn on the board is isolated, but nevertheless, white has more of them.
So I'm not sure if this is true, but SS Tynant is saying in the chat that Sidarov dropped the piece on the wrong square. Is that true?
I'm not sure. Maybe like when he was moving his rook down, like he was going rook f1, rook f2.
Like the rook landed,
he
dropped it and it landed. Okay.
I see. I said, oh, okay. So I said the arbiter wanted the move to count, but Magnus said no, and he let him redo it. So I guess might have been one of these incidental. I don't know how that happens. You drop it in the wrong square by accident or something.
Well, if you are moving from f8 to f2, that could be.
Yeah, maybe he I don't know, put what. In any case, Magnus he said no. We're gonna. That was an accident. Obviously, we're gonna play it out and we're gonna have a real finish to the game decided on the board, not by technicalities.
Yeah, no, Magnus is usually rooting for fair play.
Yes.
Yeah, because he thinks if you cannot win on the board, then what is the point in playing chess?
I'm pretty sure we've seen some online events where there was maybe some disconnections or some mouse slips, and I think Magnus would I'm pretty sure. I mean, my memory is failing me of the exact game, but I think there was something where someone disconnected and Magnus resigned the next game or something like that.
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
equalize
that
the match
happened.
back.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, wasn't it with Grishuk, I think.
Yeah. So by the way, here rook b7. If king h8, I wonder if he's just gonna go rook b1 and repetition, right? Try to go for repetition since that position would repeat. He doesn't have to, but he could. He could just go rook b1. It's like, where's your move?
Could.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not an easy win, but it seems fairly safe to play for 2 results for him.
Yeah, as long as you don't get mated with like rook f1 check, but as we've seen, he always has rook b1
Yeah.
to block any checks.
And also with e7, he kind of forces the rook to be stuck on e8 or traded. And once it's only queens on the board, Magnus has a very easy draw. So maybe
So in the
here
chat
just
said Magnus says it's important to crush the young players as much as possible. He will not draw, so maybe that's a consideration too. It's like gotta establish the dominance while they're young, so that they keep
scare
clearing
them
him.
off, scare
Yeah.
them off, so they know whom to respect.
Yeah, don't get any ideas. Yeah, so I see where you're analyzing some checks here. It could get a little annoying, queen g2 check, like king takes a3, rook a8 check, king b4, like, and there's no more checks. So
Yeah,
but yeah, Sidorov is still thinking. But again, if I'm white, I'm probably yeah, you could use some brain power to calculate this, but it's a little annoying, right? Queen takes b7 is a threat. Like there's queen b1 check. You do have to calculate a little bit.
yeah. Although the problem is once black doesn't have a check, e5 is hanging with either a mate or trade of queens.
True.
So h6 has a very important role here.
Yeah, so
Otherwise,
far,
I don't
Sidorov's
know.
thinking, but yeah,
Anywhere
can you go
else he
king
can go?
h6?
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't.
That looks like a dangerous move to play, but
Yeah, very dangerous. Yeah, it's
yeah,
probably will end up in a mate.
at least a perpetual.
Yeah.
Oh, we're hunting the
Something
king.
like this. Yeah, no, it has to be made.
Yeah, you could
Here,
maybe we could grab the queen at some point as well.
Yeah, we can also grab a queen. But
You're spoiled for
I
choice.
don't know, something will end up. Yeah,
Yeah.
this. So he has to go back.
Yeah, I mean, he could
F6
go forward.
also here,
Yeah, looks fine. Why not?
or no? Well, he's attacking e6.
I'll give it to you. King e6, queen g4. And I'll
Yeah, it
figure out.
probably is a mate. Here it's a mate on d7.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a mate. So
Well,
this
not
is
a big surprise if the king comes out like that you're going to get checkmated.
yeah,
So,
like Nodirbek yesterday. Didn't want to go back. His king kept going forward. So yeah, e7 or h6 immediately maybe.
did he? Okay, sorry, Sidorov is still thinking, right? So he hasn't
Still
decided.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like h6 because it has a clear idea, either like this or like this.
Yeah, I would be a little nervous to play queen g3 in some positions since it's leaving my king, but nevertheless, definitely something to watch out for. But yeah, this is brutal for Sidorov to play because he needs to win. It's not enough to like, oh, maybe I can save a draw, give some perpetual. He needs a win because he did lose the first game in the match. So it's a tall task, and well, he's giving it every last effort here and using all his time. He does need to keep in mind that Freestyle Friday does start in about 40 minutes. So if he wants to make that, he can't fight too long.
That being said, maybe we are gonna see Hikaru playing Freestyle Friday because he unfortunately cannot join us due to a busy schedule. I'm assuming there is also some extra interviews, maybe with other content creators, Take Studio. And if he's planning to play Freestyle Friday, he has to prioritize getting ready, having a little bit rest, maybe some food.
Yeah, I would think, with all the games concluding, there's going to be, the closing ceremony today and the prize giving ceremony. And, like you mentioned, there's all the interviews. And so I'm sure the players, even though the tournament's over, or about to be over, it is going to be still a bit busy for them. So, including, of course, Hikaru with all their different obligations. So, but I'm sure that's going to give us more content, right, to look forward to in the behind the scenes.
Something else to look forward to we're getting some beans spilled. He had to get up very early today to film a big announcement. I don't know. Alex does not know. We don't know, but we're being told that you guys should expect some very big announcement coming from Hikaru very soon. And there
That
is a
sounds
lot.
exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Can we
plus the
speculate?
recap. Plus the recap, of course.
Should
Maybe
we
he can.
speculate on this announcement? What do you? I have
Maybe
an idea.
maybe another signing up with esports.
Esports. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I saw there was a Fabiano Team Liquid thing. So I don't know. That was my first thought as well. But who knows? We'll have to wait.
Murzin was signing.
Ding, I saw.
Erigaisi as well.
So we'll
Which
have to
team would
see.
it be then? It has to be big.
Oh, I
Because
think
he
we
already
have.
was with the big ones before. It has to be bigger.
Check this out. I'm seeing on our camera. Yep. So we have just a resignation from Seedorf. So we don't get to see any king hunts. I saw they were signing the
He did not
Scorches.
even make a move.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think he was just like, okay, this is over. But by the way, so congratulations to Magnus Carlsen. He wins his match 2-0, just as Hikaru did. So they were both playing the young Uzbek talents, and this was not their day. But I was gonna say, I was really surprised they're notating, right? Because of course we're used to notation being in tournament chess and classical chess, you notate the moves. It must be kind of weird notating for the 960, but I guess it's one of these relics that they kept for these games, which I think is quite
That's a good point.
quite interesting.
That's a good point. When you do notate a freestyle game, you have to really make sure you write down the right number. Because if you don't, then later in the future, you look at your scores, you're like, what the freak is happening in this position? Like, this just does not make any sense. You really need to make sure that whoever reads it will know which exactly position was it. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm also thinking like some of these positions with like the pieces on the random squares, you gotta like knight H through G3, right? Like some unusual notation. But anyway, that is the last game though. That is we had, I'm a little surprised, no tie breaks today, right? None of the players who needed to make a comeback were able to get their victory. And in the one game in the match between Alireza and Gukesh that was tied up, Alireza gets the win with the black pieces. I believe yeah, that was the only win for black today. So that does wrap up the match, all the matches. We have the champion Vincent Keimer. Second place goes to Fabiano Caruana. Third place for Magnus Carlsen. Fourth place for Sidorov, and fifth place for Hikaru. And yeah, lots of action today. And by the way, Maria, it's been a pleasure doing my first commentary stream on 960 together with you. Also our first time, so that was an honor and pleasure on this wonderful Valentine's Day with chat.
Yeah, it was a really big treat to be here all these days, both with Christian and with you, Alex. It was also amazing to watch the way these players are untangling these seemingly absolutely crazy positions, and their insights are just a gem. Hearing all the confessionals, speaking to Hikaru after the games, watching their interviews. I still have no idea what is going on. I will try to play Freestyle Friday myself as well. We're being told that Hikaru probably will play it as well. So yeah, maybe I can even get to play him. Who knows? Are you gonna play?
I will definitely consider it. Don't be surprised if you see me in there. I'm awake, I'm up, and you know, this might be the perfect. You know, we have a little bit of time beforehand, so maybe I'll try to prepare a couple of. I'll study the theory real quick so I can be ready for some of the positions.
Okay, theory. Yeah. Good luck. Only 960 positions to study.
959.
959, yes. And by the way, this is not all for chess for Hikaru. Already on Monday, he's starting Chessable Masters, the qualifier for Esports World Cup. So more action is coming very soon on this channel. So make sure you follow it, you make sure you follow socials of Hikaru, and hopefully see you next time.